60 seconds to figure out how not to die. That's the hand this idiot just got dealt, when a rotting zombie skull greets him 2 inches from his face, and he screams like his soul is leaving his body. The whole city is wrapped in living flesh, and every person in sight is just as lost as he is. A system pops up calling this a reincarnation game where the only rule is survive or die. So this absolute clown convinces himself it has to be a dream, and punches himself in the jaw to wake up. Blood running down his face, and the dream theory is officially buried. People are already dying around him with 36 seconds left on the clock. Zombies on every block, and the system helpfully suggests killing them for energy like he's got anything to swing. This moron is cursing the universe for dragging him into a game he never downloaded. But the system mentions resource boxes scattered across the map, and his brain finally flickers on. Throws up first though. Solid start. Then the gamer instincts kick in, space rings, collect skills, storage upgrades. This fool actually starts reading the tutorial. Body mutations, suppression timers, rank systems, it's all flooding in at once. 10 seconds left, and he desperately needs something to defend himself with. Spots a shield on some armored creature across the street and goes all in. 4 seconds, rips the shield off while the thing is still twitching. 3, and he caves its chest in with its own gear. 2, snatches a grenade right off the belt. 1, and this maniac pulls the pin, connects clean, and the armored freak gets deleted. The blast catches him too because nothing in this world comes free. Timer hits 0. Sky bleeds red. The game is live. Monsters pour in from every direction, and the system cheerfully says enjoy the game. Every zombie in the district locks onto his position at once, but something shifts behind those eyes. Survival mode fully engaged. A mutant zombie screams in his face, and this idiot screams right back and charges, launches the shield like a war frisbee, and it connects. Most unhinged first kill I have ever seen, and this deranged fool is laughing through it. Meanwhile, every other player is getting shredded without a single tool. All of them yanked from Earth without warning, and half are literally begging the system for cheat codes. So priority 1 is finding shelter before his luck balance hits 0. Spots a building and bolts for the entrance, but a red warning flashes. 27 zombies packed inside. Walking in means becoming the buffet. Nobody else flinched. Not a single person reacted to that alert, and it clicks. The system notifications are his cheat, and nobody else on Earth has them. Finds a safe building, 0 threats, and a rank 1 resource box glowing inside. Dives into a sales office like it owes him rent. Barricades the door and finally catches the first full breath since this nightmare started. Inside the box, a fire axe, water, and a physique injection gun that can push his body past human limits. He holds it up thinking this is the power-up that rewrites everything. Jams it into his arm without reading a single line of fine print, and every nerve in his body detonates at once. His muscles are being shredded and rebuilt simultaneously, and he can feel every single fiber. Then the system tells him the survival rate is 30%. After he already injected it. Would any of you have read the label first? He's thrashing on the floor, writing out a 70% chance of death. Bites down on his own hand because one scream rings the dinner bell for every zombie outside. Curled up on the ground, swearing he'll survive this because dying on a sales office floor is not the legacy. Meanwhile, outside a girl comes sprinting by being chased, and I need you to understand she has 0 business looking that good in a survival apocalypse. But inside that office, a zombie finds our boy and discovers he is not the same person anymore. He carves through it like the blade was starving. Standing there reborn, eye glowing red, katana dripping, the 30% gamble paid off in full. Wang Jiran. This area's first abnormally strong player, and the game just started. Jiran is barely conscious, and every fiber in his new body is screaming at him. Grabs the water bottle from the supply box like it personally owes him his life back. Chugs the entire thing like a man who just wrestled death and barely won the match. Looks down at his own hands and starts laughing because the injection actually worked. This fool is sitting on the floor of a sales office during the apocalypse celebrating the fact that he's not dead yet. And now he's crying about it, which honestly is the most rational thing anyone has done in this entire manhwa so far. But the vacation ends immediately because somebody outside is screaming for help. Jiran goes from emotional to furious in half a second because screaming is basically a zombie dinner bell. And the person doing the screaming is a woman in a full evening gown being cornered by zombies, and I need a moment because she wore that to the apocalypse. Her little concert has attracted every zombie in the building, and Jiran can hear them closing in from every direction. So he grabs the axe in one hand and a makeshift shield in the other because apparently we're doing this. The system tells him there's 7 zombies on the 2nd floor, all distracted by the screaming, and he can take them from behind. Time to field test what abnormally strong actually means, and this fool is grinning about it. Upstairs, dress girl is about to become a snack because a zombie just crawled through the window right behind her. That thing is inches from her face, and the look in her eyes says she already knows how this ends. Jiran shows up just to immediately yell at her because her screaming is about to get them both killed. She does not take the note and instead screams even louder for him to save her, which is peak survival instincts, honestly. Jiran stops talking and starts swinging, and the axe goes through 2 zombies like he's splitting firewood at a summer camp. Buries the blade into their skulls back to back like he's been doing this for years, instead of literal minutes. And he can feel it now, his strength and reflexes are on a completely different level than before the injection. Dress girl thanks him by screaming again, and Jiran nearly loses his mind, telling her one more sound means they're both dead. Too late. A whole squad of zombies just heard the invitation and they're sprinting down the hallway like they got a group discount. Jiran reaches out and tells her to grab his hand, and honestly, if she fumbles this rescue, I cannot help her. She's looking at him with those big teary eyes, and I know exactly where this is going. Jiran clears the hallway and the system floods him with loot drops like he's speedrunning a dungeon, energy crystals, a car key, mutant fertilizer. But the next wave is already rounding the corner because this building has an infinite zombie subscription apparently. Jiran turns around to see even more of them, and Dress Girl is behind him screaming like a car alarm nobody can turn off. The system gives him two options, a dead end with 0 zombies or a path to a VIP elevator guarded by 11 more of them, but the third floor is completely clear. This maniac picks the path with 11 zombies, because of course he does. Yells at her to follow him and charges straight into the horde with a shield and a blood-soaked axe. First zombie gets in his face, and that is the last mistake it will ever make. Plants the axe right between its eyes like he's hammering a nail into a wall. 3 more rush him at once, and this idiot just bulldozes through all of them with the shield leading. The hallway looks like a butcher shop, and Jiran is standing in the middle of it with red eyes and a body count that's climbing by the second. He's screaming die at things that are already dead and genuinely meaning it. Sends one of them sailing through a window like an eviction notice with extra violence. And there it is, the VIP elevator, their ticket to the 3rd floor in safety. Except it needs a VIP electronic card to operate, and Jiran does not have one, which is the most annoying plot twist of his entire day. Something massive just crashed through the wall behind him, and he can already feel it's different from the others. A military zombie, full tactical gear, twice the size of anything he's fought, and it is looking directly at him. Keep your eye on this one. Jiran looks up at the ceiling and then back at this thing, and you can see the math happening in his head, because he just realized something that changes everything. The system tells him a presidential suite on the 3rd floor has 0 zombies and can work as a base, and suddenly the elevator is no longer optional. And guess what's dangling from the military zombie's belt? The VIP elevator card, because the game wants him to earn it the hard way. No other option, so Jiran launches himself directly at a mini-boss with nothing but an axe in sheer audacity. This thing barely flinches from a direct hit, and that is not the reaction you want from something you just tried to delete. The axe is stuck in its body, and now Jiran's primary weapon is lodged inside a zombie that is very much still moving. So he does the only reasonable thing and shield bashes it with everything the new body can produce. That actually rocked it, and now there's cracks forming across its armor like a windshield after a baseball. Rips the axe free and goes right back and chopping at this thing like it's overtime, and he gets paid by the swing. But the zombie catches him off guard and sends the shield flying, and now Jiran is exposed with no cover. This absolute lunatic just punches the zombie with his bare fist because the axe wasn't personal enough. They're trading blows in a hallway, and Jiran is matching a military-grade zombie hit for hit. Is this genius or insanity? Grabs this thing by its face and is just screaming at it to die like willpower alone can finish the job. He's asking it if it thinks he's weak, and brother, you are fist-fighting a tank zombie, so the answer should be obvious by now. Drives the axe handle straight into its midsection and forces it back with pure rage-fueled momentum. Yells eat this and brings the axe down with everything he's got left in the tank. Grabs a fire extinguisher off the wall and starts beating this zombie with it, because at this point any blunt object is a valid weapon. The military zombie staggers back completely dazed, and Jiran just turned a safety device into a war crime. Follows up with the axe one final time and buries it so deep the zombie drops like a sack of expired military rations. Jiran waves goodbye to the corpse like he just finished a casual sparring session and not the hardest fight of his life. Slaps the VIP card on the elevator panel and smashes the button like his life depends on it, because it absolutely does. But something is wrong. Green veins are crawling up his neck, and he realizes the physique injection has side effects that nobody warned him about. He can barely stand, and the girl is watching him collapse against the elevator wall while more zombies close in outside. The elevator dings, and he's muttering about the medicine's side effects because of course the 30% survival rate came with a subscription to suffering. But wait, there's a zombie in a police uniform on this floor, and Jiran spots what's strapped to its hip before it even turns around. A holstered weapon on a dead cop that hasn't figured out it's dead yet, and Jiran's eyes just lit up like it's Christmas morning in the apocalypse. Gun. This moron just found the one upgrade that changes everything, and he's barely conscious to use it. But the side effects pick the absolute worst second to kick in, because the green veins are spreading across his face, and the zombies on this floor do not care that his body is currently staging a rebellion against him. Jiran throws the shield up and catches one mid-lunge, but there's a whole welcoming committee behind it with glowing red eyes and 0 hospitality. This fool is barely standing, so he does the smart thing for once and retreats because he still needs to find the safe room the system mentioned earlier. The elevator dings on floor 3, and that sound has never been more beautiful. Jiran stumbles out looking like he just lost a bar fight with a cement mixer, axe in one hand and pride in the other. And the system confirms it. Presidential suite, 5 bedrooms, 0 zombies, and the VIP card he ripped off that military zombie opens the door. But his body is not letting him celebrate because every cell is screaming at him like he owes them money. He collapses right there on the floor, still clutching the gun he swiped off the police zombie, because even half dead, this idiot knows his priorities. Somehow drags himself down the hallway muttering that he genuinely cannot take any more of this. Buries the axe into the wall like it personally offended him and barely makes it to the bed because his body is on fire. Then spots the mini fridge and rips it open like a man finding an oasis in the Sahara, because right now water is worth more than gold. Starts inhaling water like his throat owes rent, and he's collecting immediately. Crushes the empty bottle, tosses it, and for the first time since waking up in this nightmare, he can actually breathe. Then he looks down at his hands and something feels different. Turns out drinking water actually flushes the leftover drugs out of his system, and his combat ability just got a fat upgrade as a bonus. This moron's eyes light up like he just discovered infinite scaling, because a full fridge of water means he can keep getting stronger, and if he grabs a sniper rifle tomorrow, the zombie horde becomes target practice. Meanwhile, outside, the rest of the world is having a significantly worse evening, because zombies are tearing through survivors like a buffet with a dress code of screaming. And where is Jiran during all of this? Kicked back on a couch in a presidential suite surrounded by snacks like he booked a vacation package. People are literally getting overrun on the stairwells. Zombies pouring down every floor like a flash sale at a body parts outlet. Some jack dude is throwing his whole body against a door, screaming at everyone to hold the line and not let the zombies break through. Jiran is pouring a cola directly into his mouth without a care in the world, and the contrast is genuinely criminal. New character just dropped. Jung Hao is out here slashing zombies and rallying survivors, telling everyone to block the flanks and treat the wounded because somebody has to be the responsible leader type. Jiran is spooning food into his mouth with the energy of a man who has fully accepted that the apocalypse is someone else's problem tonight. Out there, another survivor with a massive blade is standing over a pile of bodies and barely keeping his group alive. Blue-eyed blade guy promises to handle supplies and calls everyone heroes, which is peak leader energy even if the situation is completely falling apart around him. And Jiran has eaten so much his belly is physically protruding, and he just let out the most satisfied burp in zombie apocalypse history. But he's not done. This maniac is already planning his next move, grinning about raiding the shopping center to loot guns off zombie cops. Night falls and the city belongs to them now. Red-eyed silhouettes prowling under the moonlight with absolutely nowhere to be and all the time to find you. Somewhere else, a group of survivors is huddled behind crates in what looks like a gym, one of them scrolling through the system interface trying to find any advantage. Jiran's thinking bigger now. He needs to recruit players and build an actual survivor camp because solo mode has an expiration date. Meanwhile, some poor kid is clutching a crowbar behind a cabinet praying to make it through the night, and that single image tells you everything about the gap between Jiran and literally everyone else. And then there's this girl hiding under a desk whispering to herself not to be scared while a zombie is literally pressed against the window 2 feet above her head. Back to our boy who wakes up fully refreshed, fully satisfied, and immediately decides it's time to check his loot like he just finished a raid dungeon. The system inventory pops open and he's sitting on clean fabric, mutant fertilizer that speeds up crop growth, energy core crystals for leveling his physique, and straight cash for vending machines. Turns out every zombie he scrapped was basically a walking loot piñata dropping crystals and fertilizer, but storage space is tight, so he needs to prioritize food and water for field trips. Then the system reveals a car key for an off-road vehicle sitting in the underground parking lot. And this fool's shopping list just got a getaway driver. But first he wants to see how the other players are holding up because knowledge is power and nosiness is free. Zheng Hao posted a public recruitment message for his Lucky Ones camp offering teamwork and shared resources. Jiran thinks it's a solid idea, but his hidden hint ability would make him a walking target, so he's going solo. Then he discovers the trading marketplace, and this changes everything because someone named Wang Shu is flooding the board with water and sausages, and every starving player is losing their minds over it. Jiran immediately clocks the play. Everyone's desperate for weapons to get stronger, but nobody can fight on an empty stomach, so he can flip knives and kitchen tools for food and water at insane margins. Then he spots it. Someone named Zhao Shiyue is selling a city map, an academy campus distribution map, and 5 bloody keys, all private chat for price. And his brain immediately locks on, taps the private chat button without a second of hesitation. And the video call connects to reveal a purple-eyed girl in straps and thigh highs who looks like the apocalypse personally styled her for maximum devastation. Jiran somehow keeps it together and tells her he wants all 3 items. Name a price, acting like his brain didn't just blue screen for half a second. She says she just needs food and clean drinking water. Even just water is fine, and the way those violet eyes look when she says that is doing things to my cardiovascular system that no doctor could explain. But Jiran's merchant brain kicks in because the map is way too valuable to show demand for, so he decides to lowball her first. Is this genius strategy, or is this just scamming a pretty girl in the apocalypse? Hits her with the most casual delivery possible. Says the map isn't that useful to him and offers half a bottle of water and a half-eaten can of lunch and meat. For a city map, a campus map, and 5 bloody keys. This man is grinning like he just invented robbery, and she immediately says deal. Jiran wasn't even ready for her to fold that fast, and now he's sitting there holding his leftovers, wondering if he lowballed too hard. She puts the half-eaten can and a water bottle into the trading system and confirms the transfer like these scraps are treasure to her. And she smiles and thanks him, saying he's a really good person, unlike others, and the guilt just punched Jiran directly in the chest. The system confirms he just got 5 bloody keys, the city map and the academy map for literal table scraps, and even he's wondering if he went too far on this one. He can hear her chugging the water and tearing into the food through the calls so desperately that he has to tell her to slow down before she chokes. The guilt is eating him alive now, so he decides to add her as a friend and make it up to her once he has more resources, because even this schemer has a conscience somewhere. Puts on his friendliest face and asks if they can add each other because nothing says trustworthy like the guy who just finessed you for pennies. But she hits back with a question. Where exactly is he, and why does he have important resources like maps? And those purple eyes suddenly look a lot sharper than they did 30 seconds ago. Then she just disconnects. No goodbye, no warning, just gone. and Jiran is staring at a dead screen wondering what she's hiding and where exactly she is that made her cut the call that fast. So Jiran's sitting there processing everything, and his conclusion is pretty grim because without rules or morality, human nature goes feral, and a girl alone in this world needs to stay on guard at all times. Smart take from a guy who just scammed one. Time to crash early and gear up for tomorrow. Meanwhile, outside the city is pure nightmare fuel because these red-eyed freaks own every block now and they are hungry. Cut to a group of survivors crammed into an elevator like sardines in a coffin, and some dude is barking about St. Forest Hospital being 2 streets away. Back to our boy, elevator hitting floor 2, heading down to handle business, and he steps out looking like a whole raid boss with the axe in one hand, riot shield in the other, talking about let's do this like he's queuing into ranked. That face right there is not the face of someone worried about dying. This maniac sprints and swinging the axe like he's speedrunning a Souls game, screaming die at anything that moves. Except nothing moves. 0 zombies. The whole floor is completely empty and even Jiran is confused by that. But what he does find is a pool of blood on the floor. Human blood, which means another player was here before him. He crouches down and starts reading the splatter like a forensic analyst because the blood didn't spray everywhere, it pooled in one spot, and the realization hits him like a truck. Someone is hunting players, not zombies. Players. Worse, whoever did this took the revolver from the zombie cop and might still be lurking nearby with it. But then he calms down because the killer doesn't have an elevator card so he can't reach the 3rd floor, and he probably already bounced without knowing anyone was upstairs. So Jiran shifts the plan. Parking lot first. Find that off-road vehicle the system hinted about before this psycho comes back. But here's where things get spicy because somebody else is creeping through these same halls and it is not a zombie. This absolute unit watched Jiran move and clocked everything. Fast runner, solid physique, which means valuable resources worth stealing. And this freak is holding the stolen revolver with the most unhinged grin, promising to sit right here and wait for Jiran to come back. Jiran makes it to the underground parking lot and it's pitch dark, bloodstains everywhere, cars collecting dust like a horror movie set. He pulls out the car key and hits the button with his heart pounding because if this beeps, every zombie in earshot is coming for dinner. The car lights up and it's a full-on off-road beast just sitting there waiting for him like a cheat code reward. But of course that beep woke up every dead thing in the garage because 2 zombies come sprinting out of the darkness like they got a party invite. Now here's the thing, that's not Jiran saying he's the most dangerous person. That's the killer upstairs grinning like he already won, and this fool doesn't even know what's coming for him. Meanwhile, Jiran is turning these garage zombies into modern art with the axe, splitting skulls left and right without breaking stride. And the loot drops are stacking up like a Black Friday haul. Energy crystals, clean fabric, mutant fertilizer. This fool is farming the parking lot like it's a starter dungeon. Then he opens the car and freezes because what's inside changes absolutely everything. A shotgun with ammo crates. The system's hidden hints are genuinely cracked because this is basically a care package from the universe. This fool grabs the shotgun and the ammo, grinning ear to ear, talking about being rich now as if he didn't just upgrade from medieval peasant to action movie protagonist in 3 seconds. Smart move though, he decides to absorb the physique medicine first before heading back because if that killer is camping the elevator, then Jiran needs every stat point he can get. And he's absolutely right to be paranoid because he can't assume the murderer doesn't know about him. That elevator could be a kill box right now, so he creeps back up through the stairwell instead, and rolls an empty can down the hallway as bait because this kid watches too many war movies, and I respect it. And sure enough, the killer hears the noise, raises his revolver, and starts checking it out because the bait worked perfectly. Jiran is pressed flat against a wall, clutching the shotgun ready to trade lead with a murderer at point-blank range. Then the system drops another clutch hint. Gunman in the guest room opposite the elevator. This hidden hint ability is literally wall hacks, and I am here for the competitive advantage. Jiran's blood runs cold because the system just confirmed it. This psycho was camping the elevator waiting for him exactly like he feared. The can trick worked though because the killer steps out to investigate the noise like a textbook horror movie victim, and Jiran is the one writing the script. But Jiran decides not to rush it. If the enemy doesn't move, he doesn't move. This is a patience check, and our boy has ice in his veins right now. Then from outside the building, someone screams for help and Jiran's ears perk up instantly because that changes the entire situation. Wait, that woman is still alive? Jiran thought she was already dead, but that scream sounded fresh and desperate. And from the killer's room comes panic cursing because he realizes Jiran is somewhere below him now and might be headed toward the scream. The hunter is becoming the hunted. Jiran doesn't hesitate. He fires the shotgun to force the killer back and carve himself an opening through pure violence. He pushes through the hallway with the revolver drawn, sweeping corners like a one-man SWAT team in a hoodie. The killer bolted downstairs and Jiran knows he can't just let this freak roam free because being hunted by someone with a gun means he'll never sleep again. Now we cut outside to something absolutely disgusting because there is a woman tied to a tree in a dress with zombies closing in, and I need everyone to understand what's actually happening here. She's begging and crying for them to let her go because the zombies are right there, and this whole setup is giving vibes that would make a federal agent kick down doors. Because some absolute scumbag tied her there on purpose. This bearded freak is telling her she owes them for saving her life, so she has to do whatever they say, and that is the most vile thing we've seen so far. He tells her to scream louder to attract more zombies because apparently their plan is to use her as live bait for grinding, and his buddy is already doubting if they can handle the horde. These two deserve whatever is coming. And the worst part is the big guy watched Jiran solo 8 zombies with an axe earlier and figured if one person can do that, then zombies must be weak enough for him to farm. Absolutely delusional gap analysis. The zombies are closing in on this poor woman, and she's screaming for them to stay away, but she literally cannot move because she is tied to a tree, so these monsters can level up. And then a zombie grabs her, just latches on with those rotting hands and starts going to work, and there is nothing she can do about it. Her screaming drew in every zombie for blocks, and now the entire street is flooding with red-eyed freaks swarming toward the sound. She gets swarmed and torn apart, still tied to that tree, and I genuinely feel sick because these two cowards did this to her for experience points. Worst characters in this entire story, and it's not even close. Then these two geniuses charge out with a kitchen knife and a cleaver, screaming about killing 20 zombies and retreating like they just entered a raid with starter gear. The big guy belly flops a zombie from above like a wrestling finisher, and somehow it works because I guess gravity is the ultimate weapon. He sinks the kitchen knife into a zombie skull, but here's the problem with budget weapons. The blade gets lodged in bone and won't come out. This fool brought a kitchen knife to a zombie apocalypse and just discovered the refund policy is death. Both of them turn tail and bolt with the entire zombie horde in pursuit, screaming for someone to save them as if anybody owes these clowns a single thing. The big guy is getting cornered, and suddenly his confidence from watching Jiran fight seems pretty stupid now that the zombies aren't attacking someone else. Then the younger one realizes there's no way out and reaches for the big guy because at least they can go down together, right? Wrong. The big guy shoves his partner into the zombie horde, screaming sorry, and books it the other direction. This is genuinely the most pathetic betrayal I have ever witnessed, and the younger guy's last words as the zombies close in are a promise that even as a zombie he'll come back for revenge. Would you trust anyone in this apocalypse after watching this? But guess who's been watching this entire disaster unfold from behind a wall? Jiran is crouched outside with his shotgun, muttering about morality being dead, just waiting for the killer to show his face. And here comes the big guy sprinting directly toward Jiran's hiding spot, screaming for help while our boy is sitting there furious because this buffoon is about to blow his entire ambush. Jiran sends that tubby traitor face first into the pavement with a shotgun blast, and honestly it could not have happened to a more deserving individual. And this fool is standing there with a smoking barrel like you got exactly what was coming to you. But the gunshot was basically a dinner bell because every red-eyed freak within earshot just got an invitation, and one of them locks eyes with Jiran immediately, so the stealth run is officially over. Smart move though, because this idiot holsters the gun and pulls the axe out instead, since another shot would turn this into a horde event. And Jiran goes absolutely primal with that swing like he's chopping wood at the end of the world, which is technically accurate. But more of them are sprinting in from every direction, and these things do not believe in taking turns. So Jiran goes full melee carry with the axe in one hand and the riot shield in the other, just carving through them like it's a Dynasty Warriors speedrun. He launches off the ground and cleaves a zombie mid-air like he's been doing this his entire life instead of 3 days. Then one massive spin and he sends bodies flying in every direction like a human blender. And honestly, this kid might be the coldest survivor in this entire apocalypse. When the dust settles, Jiran walks back to the big guy's corpse, because in this game even trash mobs drop loot, and the loot is a storage ring that lets you pull out resources but can't store anything new, which sounds like the worst inventory system ever designed. But then Jiran reads the fine print and his stomach drops because this ring can only be obtained from killing other players, which means upgrading storage requires murder. Before he can even process that, the system screams check above and Jiran spots a shadow falling from the building right on top of him. Something crashes down hard enough to crack the concrete and Jiran barely rolled out of the way in time. And the voice that comes out of the dust is way too calm for a guy who just jumped off a building because he tells Jiran his reflexes aren't bad. Jiran's face says it all because this is the exact psychopath who was camping the elevator with a gun. And this absolute maniac is laughing about how he jumped out a window on purpose just to bait Jiran into the open, because apparently parkour is a viable combat strategy now. He grabs the hilt of his sword, grinning about how he never expected Jiran to actually fall for it, and now our boy realizes he walked straight into a trap. Jiran is stunned because this freak knew he was hiding behind the wall the entire time, and still played him like a chess piece. The killer even clocked the empty can trick from earlier and figured out exactly where Jiran was camped, so every big brain play just got completely outplayed. Then this villain does the full anime antagonist walk with the glowing blue eyes and sword, telling Jiran he's too green to survive, and honestly, but Jiran raises the riot shield anyway, talking about how they won't know who dies until they actually throw hands, and I respect the bluff even if his hands are shaking. The killer just smiles wider like a predator watching prey try to look big, and then his foot digs into the ground like a sprinter on blocks, because this psycho closes the distance in a blink and nearly takes Jiran's head off with the opening strike. He unleashes an energy slash along the ground, screaming about showing Jiran the power of someone with abnormally high stats, and the gap is immediately obvious. Jiran barely tilts his head back in time, and the blade grazes his cheek, drawing blood because that was genuinely centimeters from being fatal. They crash into each other blade to blade, and Jiran is giving everything he has just to not get deleted. But the killer is still complimenting his reaction speed mid-combo like he's grading a student, and that is the most disrespectful thing you can do to someone trying to survive. Then the killer winds up one massive overhead strike, and the energy behind it is enough to flatten a building. Jiran gets launched across the street like a ragdoll, and the killer is already taunting him, asking if he can even stand up anymore. This monster walks over casually with the sword and starts giving a medical diagnosis about Jiran's fractured sternum like he's performing a consultation, not a murder. Jiran is spitting blood and thinking clearly, despite all of it, because he knows this guy's combat experience outclasses him by miles. So what does this lunatic do? He gets up screaming and charges straight at the killer, because sometimes the only strategy left is violence and prayer. And the killer actually flinches for the first time, wondering how this kid with a broken chest is still moving. Ji-ran is screaming mid-charge about why he has to hunt players, why they can't just coexist, and the desperation in his voice is real because he never wanted this fight. He closes the distance and grabs the killer's arm while landing a clean shot to his jaw, and this has turned into a street brawl between a murderer and a kid who refuses to die. The killer is actually panicking now, screaming for Ji-ran to let go while taunting him about why he won't pull out his gun, which is either a bluff or the dumbest request ever made. So Ji-ran does exactly what he asked and whips out the revolver mid-grapple, and the look on this killer's face is pure instant regret. Ji-ran, with blood running down his face, grabs the revolver and puts every ounce of rage into the words, "I will end you." The killer kicks off and tries to swat the gun away, but Ji-ran already has the trigger pulled, and at this range missing is nearly impossible. Ji-ran channels everything into the shot, and the energy ripping through his hand could fry circuits. He switches to the shotgun because if one barrel doesn't finish the job, then two barrels definitely will. But this cockroach is still charging in with that deranged grin, like he genuinely enjoys being shot at, and that is not the reaction of a normal person. Ji-ran squeezes the trigger and plants the barrel directly against the killer's forehead, where even this maniac's stats cannot save him from point-blank execution. Ji-ran can barely breathe and his body is shutting down, but his trigger finger still works, and that is all that matters right now. And just like that, the king of player killers is suddenly begging to negotiate with a revolver kissing his forehead, and I have never seen karma deliver this fast. But the gunshots have echoed across the entire city block, and in a zombie apocalypse, noise is a death sentence with delayed delivery. Because down on the street, the undead are flooding in by the dozens toward the sound, while survivors near the vehicles are scrambling to get away. A group of survivors with melee weapons is screaming about the gunshots riling up every zombie in the area, and they need to fall back to the gymnasium immediately. Also, there is a girl with pink hair, and I am keeping my eye on her. Meanwhile, Ji-ran is on the ground coughing up blood with the killer's body next to him, and the W cost him nearly everything he had. He's clenching his chest in agony, trying to stand, but the zombies are already visible in the background, closing the distance, and this fool cannot run right now. The killer is laid out cold with his skull painted red, and Ji-ran's body is telling him it is done moving, which is genuinely the worst time for his legs to quit. Then a notification pops up that Zhao Shiyue is requesting a private chat, and Ji-ran's about to die, but sure, let's take a phone call. And the face that appears on screen belongs to an absolute vision with dark hair, purple eyes, and a choker who is way too pretty to be panicking this hard, but here we are, and I am looking respectfully while my boy bleeds out. Ji-ran can barely form words lying on the ground while Shiwei's screen shows the zombie horde closing in behind him, and this video call just became a live death stream. But Shiwei is hiding under a desk in a tank top and thigh high, screaming that she has adrenaline she can send him, and this girl just became the most important person in this entire apocalypse for multiple reasons that I will not elaborate on. She sends the medicine through the system, and Ji-ran is reaching for it with the last scraps of energy his broken body has, while the zombies close within arm's reach. A magic circle lights up in his hand as the item materializes, and he knows if this takes even 1 second too long, he is zombie food. He jams the adrenaline in, and the description reads short-term berserk state with a 3-second activation delay, which is 3 seconds he absolutely does not have. Ji-ran is pressing himself against the wall, begging the drug to kick in before the zombies arrive, and this is literally a loading screen during a boss fight. 3 seconds on the timer, and the zombies are already surrounding him on all sides while the counter ticks down to 2.48. 2.05 seconds, and the zombies are right on top of him, reaching for his throat. 0.00, and Ji-ran erupts with blue eyes blazing and an axe painting the street red because the berserk mode hit at the exact last millisecond, and this might be the most clutch play in manhwa history. Ji-ran is carving through undead like a man possessed, because technically he is, that berserk adrenaline turning every swing into a one-hit delete. But the second he clears one wave, he turns around, and there's already another pack closing in from behind, and the realization hits him mid-swing that this horde is not ending, it just keeps multiplying like a debt he can never pay off. So this maniac does the only thing he can and charges straight into a narrow alley where an entire stampede of red-eyed freaks is funneling right toward him. He barely rounds a corner before more of them crawl out from behind every wall, like this city has infinite spawn points and the developers forgot to cap them. Every direction he turns, there's another set of rotting hands reaching for his throat, and this fool is genuinely starting to lose his composure. They're practically on top of him now, close enough that he can count their missing teeth, and the berserk mode is clearly not infinite. So he grips the revolver, because when the blade isn't enough, you reach for the boomstick and pray. Except there are no more bullets, the chamber is empty, and Ji-ran's face is giving the exact energy of a man watching his savings hit zero on payday. One of the faster zombies lunges at him, and this idiot has to physically wrestle it off while sprinting, because running and grappling is apparently a skill set he's developed overnight. He vaults over a low wall with his katana still in hand while more zombies swarm below him, and at this point parkour has become a mandatory survival skill. He lands near a parking lot and spots one of those yellow and black parking fence barriers bolted into the concrete, and you can literally see the light bulb flicker on behind his eyes. He tightens his grip on the katana and mutters that he has an idea, which in Jiran language could mean genius or catastrophe with no in-between. And he unleashes a blue energy slash that rips through the zombie front line like they're made of wet paper, and honestly the Berserk buff is doing numbers right now. He sprints along the parking ramp with the katana dragging behind him, looking like the protagonist of everyone's revenge fantasy. He grabs one of those metal parking bollards and rips it clean out of the concrete because apparently the Berserk buff turned his noodle arms into hydraulic presses. This absolute menace yanks the entire pole free like he's pulling a weed out of a garden, and now he has a brand new blunt instrument of mass destruction. But when he turns around, there's an entire wall of zombies blocking his only way out, and they are not impressed by his new toy. Jiran's eyes go full electric blue, and he swings the bollard like a man who has personally chosen violence as his entire personality from this point forward. Meanwhile, up on a building, a buff dude with a cigarette and a kid are spectating this whole massacre from the cheap seats going, hey, look at that. Because from their aerial view, Jiran is soloing an entire intersection of zombies, and the spectators are losing their collective minds over a one-man genocide simulator. Some dude on top of a van starts broadcasting to everyone within earshot that there's a big shot down here running a solo dungeon clear on the entire zombie population. But here's where it gets worse, because stomping around the corner is something significantly larger than your average zombie, and the guy on the van has suddenly gone very quiet. Jiran turns around and is now staring up at a mutant zombie the size of a refrigerator that someone left in the sun for about 6 months too long. This thing is built like a condemned building, and it's roaring at Jiran while the system helpfully informs him there's a steel wire net near the riverbank, which is basically the game saying please run, you absolute fool. Back at the gymnasium, the pink-haired girl and the other survivors are watching all of this unfold on a screen. They're watching Jiran tear through zombies in real time on what looks like a live feed, and someone finally asks if this monster could be the big shot Wang Shuran, and his reputation is apparently spreading faster than the infection. But Jiran admits there are way too many to fight head-on, so he bolts for the steel wire fence, because even main character energy has its limits. He makes it to the other side of the fence, and the zombies pile up against the wire like Black Friday shoppers at a store that's already closed. He even throws them a cocky little wave goodbye, because nothing says peak confidence like taunting 100 zombies from behind a chain-link fence. And that is the exact moment the Berserk medicine wears off, and every single nerve in his body fires at the same time like his warranty just expired mid-celebration. He collapses face first against the fence because the side effects of a Berserk drug are apparently just all the pain hitting you at once, like a bill that was deferred with interest. Jiran is on his hands and knees, trying not to pass out while the zombies are still pressing against the wire behind him, but then the system decides to finally deliver some good news because a notification pops up saying he has enough resources to level up and absorb the physique medicine permanently. His full inventory pulls up, and this loser has been hoarding like a doomsday prepper on steroids. 105 energy crystals, plus he's got blueprints for an indestructible alloy blade and a map fusion device, which means the loot table from his kills has been feeding him like a 5-star buffet this entire time. The system asks if he wants to level up with 105 out of 100 crystals, and Jiran smashes that yes button faster than you skip a YouTube ad. And just like that, the level up hits, the medicine side effects vanish completely, and Jiran says every cell in his body feels charged, which is gamer speak for the patch just buffed my entire build. He punches the ground to test his new stats, and the concrete shatters like a dinner plate, no damage to his fist, and this man just graduated from glass cannon to actual tank. On top of that, his storage ring decides to auto-upgrade as well, because when it rains power-ups, it pours. Storage ring hits rank 2 with 24 slots, and at rank 3 it unlocks a virtual garage, which means this apocalypse survival game has a vehicle expansion pack, and I need it. Then Jiran gets real for a second and says he needs to thank the girl who sent him the adrenaline, because without her, he'd be decorating a zombie's stomach lining right now. And the look on his face when he thinks about Shiyue is suspiciously soft for a man who was cracking skulls 30 seconds ago. But the system has other plans, because a global alert drops on every player's screen saying Phase 2 activates in 10 days and the zombie weakening period gets completely removed. Back at the gymnasium, the survivors are collectively panicking because Phase 2 means the zombies get a stat boost, and these people barely survived Phase 1 with kitchen knives. But their blue-haired leader steps up with the pink-haired girl beside him and starts rallying the troops with a classic "we're stronger together" speech that honestly has zero evidence backing it up. He announces they're raiding the East Street supermarket tomorrow for supplies, and honestly charging into a zombie-infested grocery store is the most apocalypse sentence I've ever heard. And he calls out two names, Chi Hong Da and Qian Zhenyu, and the camera pans to a wall of muscle in a tank top standing next to a woman who is absolutely strapped and looking like she could bench press the apocalypse itself. Keep an eye on her specifically. The whole group rallies behind the plan to hit the supermarket, and the energy in that gymnasium just shifted from funeral to football pregame in about 3 seconds flat. Now we cut to Shiyue, and I'm going to need everyone to be seated for this because she's in the choker and thigh-highs combo, just eating and drinking like the end of the world is a minor inconvenience. And the artist drew this panel with weaponized intent. Jiran's watching her through the video call thinking she really can eat a lot, and my brother in the apocalypse, you are worrying about her appetite while the rest of us are worrying about our blood pressure looking at her. Xiyue pops back on screen with those purple eyes and tells Jiran she never expected him to actually survive, and he hits her with a genuine thank you because without her medicine he'd be a statistic. Jiran tries to play humble, saying anyone would have done the same, and Jiwei immediately immediately fires back, asking how many normal people actually exist in this world. And the way she looks at him through that screen with her guard slightly down is doing things to the romantic subplot meter that I was not prepared for. Then Jiran goes full simp mode and asks if she's been trapped under that desk this whole time, tells her to share her location, and promises to come rescue her personally. Ixayue's eyes go wide like nobody in this apocalypse has offered to do anything for her without a price tag attached, and honestly the bar is in the underworld, but Jiran still cleared it. And this fool panics when she hesitates and immediately starts rambling about how his place is big and safe and she can take a hot bath and live there, and bro, that pitch sounded exactly as suspicious as you think it did, but I am rooting for him anyway. Ixayue thanks him for the food and water and then hits him with a goodbye so cold it could freeze the entire apocalypse. And she just hangs up on him. Screen goes dead and Jiran is standing there like a man who got left unread by the only girl left on Earth. Meanwhile, Shiyue is curled up in the dark whispering about how people outside have no idea what real danger is, and something about the way she says it tells me this woman has seen things that make zombies look like a mild inconvenience. And the artist gives us a close-up of those galaxy purple eyes looking absolutely shattered, and I swear this woman was engineered in a lab to make me feel things I did not consent to feeling. She gazes out the window at the sky like someone who hasn't tasted freedom in a very long time, because the second she looks outside, a massive clawed hand comes crashing through, and whatever is keeping Jiyue trapped in that building is way worse than regular zombies. But we cut back to Jiran, who is out exploring and stumbles across something called a meat potato seed, which is apparently a crop that tastes like meat and grows protein, and honestly the apocalypse just invented the perfect gym, bro. Superfood. Night falls over the city and the moonlight makes the empty buildings look like tombstones in a graveyard that stretches for miles. Jiran is back at his base when something catches his attention and every survival instinct in his newly upgraded body fires at once. The tempered glass window is shattered like someone put a fist through a windshield, and his storage fridge has been completely ransacked. This fool is standing in the middle of broken glass, realizing somebody broke into his base and robbed him while he was out gathering seeds like a peaceful farmer. Now here's what he thinks broke in, because the system showed him earlier this absolute nightmare of a creature with glowing red eyes, a mouth full of razors, and tentacles covered in eyeballs that look like they belong in a different genre entirely. So Jiran grabs his shotgun and posts up in the dark like a man who is ready to ventilate whatever comes through that window next. But then he calms down and starts thinking, if whatever broke this reinforced glass was still here, his system would have warned him, which means the intruder already bounced. And right when he's about to lower his guard, he hears a burp come from somewhere in the room, and I genuinely cannot make this up. Jiran whips the shotgun around and screams at whatever just ate his food to show itself immediately. And out steps a tiny girl with twin tails and a yellow jacket clutching a knife like she's about to defend herself with a butter spreader, trembling so hard she's practically vibrating. Jiran's face goes completely blank because the terrifying intruder that smashed through reinforced glass and devoured his entire fridge is a child. He calls her a little rat and asks if she's the one who cleaned out his fridge, and this tiny gremlin says yeah with the confidence of someone who does not understand how close she was to catching a shotgun shell. Then she immediately flips the script and starts denying everything while still holding the evidence in her hand, and Jiran is like, girl, at least put the tool away before you try lying to my face. And then this absolute menace has the audacity to ask him for a bottle of water after she already drank every bottle in his fridge. She calls him stingy and tries to bolt, and honestly watching a grown man with a shotgun get disrespected by a child in the apocalypse is content I did not know I needed. But wait, it gets worse because this kid somehow lands a hit on Jiran and he screams in pain like a man who just discovered that children are the true final boss of this apocalypse. She sinks her teeth into his arm like a feral animal, and Jiran, the man who solos zombie hordes, is getting absolutely mauled by a kid who weighs less than his shotgun. The bite launches him backwards and blood is coming out of his nose, and this might genuinely be the most embarrassing L any protagonist has ever taken in the history of this medium. And while he's still recovering, she yells goodbye big brother, thanks for the storage ring, and disappears through the door like a professional thief who happens to be 4 feet tall. Jiran checks his hand and realizes this kid just pickpocketed his storage ring, the one that holds literally everything he owns, and the rage on his face could power a small city. He grabs his shotgun and takes off after her, swearing that if he doesn't catch this brat, he'll lose his mind, and honestly he might have already lost it because he just got finessed by a minor. He catches up to her and she has the nerve to look surprised and ask if he has a gun, like the shotgun he's been holding the entire time was somehow invisible to her. Jiran pulls the gun away from her and snaps that stealing his food and water wasn't enough. Now she wants his weapon too, and this child's greed has more ambition than most CEOs. But then the girl's face changes completely, and she screams to turn off the light because a zombie is coming, and suddenly the comedy segment is over. Jiran doesn't care and tells her to return his ring, or he'll delete her right alongside whatever zombie is showing up, because this man's priorities are inventory first, survival second. That's when the system flashes a warning about the window, and Jiran barely has time to process it before something way too fast is already here. A mutant zombie explodes through the glass like a freight train made of nightmares, and Jiran narrowly avoids getting his face rearranged. The system tags it as a larval crawler, type 2 mutant, fast, great at jumping, blind but attracted to light, and Jiran is screaming, asking what the hell a crawler even is because apparently the zombie evolution tree has branching skill paths now. Jiran goes on the offensive and tries to feed this thing a shotgun blast at point-blank range. But here is where it gets wild, because the little girl jumps in and cracks this mutant with a hammer so hard that Jiran stops mid-fight to wonder if her strength stat is bugged, and he connects the dots that her appetite matches her ridiculous power. She bought him just enough time to line up a clean shot, and Jiran takes it with the confidence of a man who just got a free assist from the world's world's smallest tank. The blast connects and Jiran is already talking trash, saying mutant zombies aren't that hard to deal with. And brother, you are tempting fate in ways that should be illegal. He turns to the girl with a look that says, okay, playtime is over. It's your turn to answer for your crimes. While she stands there smiling like she didn't just commit armed robbery 30 seconds ago. Except the crawler is not dead because it crashes back down from the ceiling gushing blood, and the girl's eyes go wide with the kind of fear that tells you she's been dealing with these things long before Jiran showed up. Both of them have the exact same reaction at the exact same time, asking how this thing is still breathing after taking a shotgun shell and a hammer to the skull. And now Jiran is in trouble because his ammo is inside the storage ring that this brat stole. And he's screaming at her to give it back while she suggests he just throw the shotgun at it, which is the most galaxy brain solution I've ever heard from a child. Jiran is fighting the crawler barehanded now, screaming at her to hurry because every second without that ring is a second closer to becoming monster food. He throws a haymaker directly into the crawler's face with his upgraded fists, and the impact rocks the entire room. The punch sends this thing crashing through the wall like Jiran just installed a new doorway with his knuckles. And there it is, the girl slides the storage ring back to him with perfect timing, because apparently she only cooperates when death is literally standing in the room. Jiran snatches that ring out of the air and his whole demeanor shifts from desperate to dangerous in half a heartbeat. The crawler lunges at him again, but this time Jiran is locked in, dodging its attack like he knew it was coming 3 frames ago. He pulls shotgun shells from the ring and loads up with the kind of smooth efficiency that makes you forget this man was panicking 10 seconds ago. And he unloads point blank into the crawler's chest, lighting it up like a fireworks show with teeth. The blast sends the crawler flying into the ceiling, and Jiran watches it go, thinking surely that was the kill shot. But this thing lands on the wall, and it's somehow even bigger now, towering over Jiran like the game just buffed the mid-boss because you were doing too well. Jiran's eyes go wide because this creature just dodged a bullet, and a zombie that can think is a problem that shotguns alone cannot solve. The crawler is bearing down on both of them, and this room just became way too small for 3 living things, and only 2 of them should be walking out. The girl screams as she gets knocked to the ground, and for a split second it looks like this fight is about to go very wrong very fast. But then a blade comes out, and the sound it makes cutting through the air tells you everything you need to know about what happens next. Jiran pulls out the katana and paints the room red with one clean stroke that carves this crawler open like Christmas dinner, and the girl in the background can only stand there watching the man work. He turns to the girl with the coldest expression he's worn all night, and tells her to leave, saying he'll let her go this one time because she helped during the fight, and that line delivery alone deserves an award. But this kid refuses to leave and straight up asks him to be her boss and protect her, because apparently getting threatened at gunpoint and almost eaten by a mutant is her version of a job interview. Jiran sheathes the katana, looking every bit like the protagonist he's becoming, and the girl notices he's wounded from the crawler fight, calling him boss like the contract is already signed, and honestly this man just accidentally adopted a feral child in the middle of the apocalypse. So this gremlin he just adopted? She immediately turns around and tells Jiran he's doomed because the crawler bite means he'll become a zombie in 2 hours, and then demands all his resources like she's running a liquidation sale on his life. Jiran is on the ground bleeding from the fight, and this fool has the nerve to ask why he's the one suffering when she literally lured that monster to his doorstep. Then this maniac grabs her wrist and goes, "Before I die, I want to," and the girl instantly starts panicking because whatever he's about to say has her fight or flight on maximum. He tells her he's gonna take her down with him, and she screams back that nobody wants to die alongside his broke self, threatening to come back after he turns and flatten his skull with her hammer. And this entire conversation sounds like a divorced couple arguing over the mortgage. She finally storms out, and Jiran watches her go, thinking, okay, the apocalypse has plenty of terrible people, but very few are this specifically annoying. He crosses his arms like a man who just survived both a mutant zombie and a feral child in the same evening. Next day, this little parasite comes crawling back, screaming and crying because she was only gone a few hours, and now she can't find any of the resources she left behind, calling him boss zombie like the contract she signed with herself is still valid. But Jiran is already gone because thanks to Shiyue's map, he found somewhere infinitely better, and he's out here leaping through nature with his katana like this apocalypse just became his personal vacation arc. The system confirms it. No zombies detected, perfect settlement, and Jiran is standing on what looks like an island surrounded by water with actual trees and a building, which in this economy is basically a 5-star resort. He pushes open the door to check out the inside of his new home base, and the way he walks in you can tell he's already mentally placing furniture and picking out curtains. Inside there's actual couches and a coffee table, and this idiot just stumbled into the one apartment in the entire apocalypse that still looks livable. But then he hears something munching in the other room, and his hand immediately goes to the katana, because nothing in this world eats peacefully without trying to eat you next. He crouches down and peeks under the furniture trying to find whatever is making that sound, and it's a wolf cub. Not just any wolf cub though, because the system tags this little fluffball as a Howl Moon Wolf King with S-rank combat talent that you can tame by feeding it meat, and Jiran just hit the gacha jackpot without spending a single dime. His eyes go so wide they nearly leave his skull, because Howl Moon Wolf King and S-rank are 2 phrases that should never appear on the same screen unless something incredible is happening. The little wolf is barking at him with the ferocity of something that will absolutely be terrifying in about 3 weeks, but right now just looks like an angry cotton ball. Jiran whips out a chunk of meat and launches it at the wolf, yelling, "Eat this," with the desperation of a man who knows exactly what kind of cheat code he's looking at. The wolf sniffs the meat suspiciously, keeping its distance like it's evaluating whether this stranger deserves its loyalty. It leans in closer, and the tension in this room is wild because Jiran's entire late-game power scaling might depend on whether this puppy likes beef. It starts eating, and Jiran is celebrating like he just won the lottery because in this world, a pet that fights for you is worth more than any weapon. The system breaks down the stats. Favorability starts at 1, needs to reach 100 to permanently bind, and even as a cube this thing's combat power equals an extremely strong human with a weapon, which is absurd for something that fits in a backpack. Jiran is lying on the floor processing the fact that this tiny cub already fights as well as a full-grown enhanced human, and he can barely contain himself because Lady Luck just kissed this man on both cheeks. Now here's where we cut away, because across the city in some massive building, a whole different group of survivors is dealing with a very different situation, and leading this crew is a blue-haired guy along with a woman in tactical gear. Hold on, the apocalypse has not been kind to anyone except apparently whoever dressed her, because she's serving looks in the middle of a zombie wasteland. One of their guys is on the ground sobbing and bleeding out because he got bitten defending the group. The blue-haired leader kneels next to the wounded and tells someone to give them food, because that's all they can offer right now. The woman explains the brutal truth. In 2 hours, these bitten people will turn into zombies and they're already running low on everything. But they got hurt protecting the camp, so they deserve better than this. Someone says they should at least let them eat a final meal before sending them away, and that line lands heavier than any action scene in this entire manhwa. The whole group is in tears because sending away your own people to die is the kind of decision that breaks you whether you make it or not, and this apocalypse stopped being fun about 30 seconds ago. Back to our boy who has zero sympathy for anyone's problems because he just called someone a dumbass with the casual confidence of a man building an empire one insult at a time. He pulls out what he says is the last piece of meat, and honestly the way he's holding it makes it look like he's presenting a sacred artifact to the gods. Erpang's tail is wagging at maximum speed, favorability sitting at 99, and Jiran is coaxing him like, come on buddy, one more point and you're mine forever, which is the most wholesome bribery I've witnessed in this series. The system congratulates him on taming the Howl Moon Wolf King, and Jiran is sitting there with this adorable little beast at his feet looking like a man who just unlocked the companion DLC for free. A full stat screen rolls in and this wolf is absolutely cracked. It eats zombies as food, it eats mutant animals, mutant insects, its combat skill amplifies its size and strength and speed, and Jiran is grinning because his pet's diet is literally the entire enemy roster. Now this fool is at the kitchen sink filling up a bowl of water for Erpang like a proud pet dad in the middle of the end of the world, but he notices the water already looking questionable, and realizes phase 2 is approaching fast, which means new monsters, polluted water, and basically everything getting exponentially worse, because this apocalypse apparently has a seasonal update schedule. So Jiran takes Erpang down to the shore near their base, and starts planting seeds in the ground because this man is speedrunning civilization from scratch. Erpang decides to help by digging like his life depends on it, tail going absolutely wild, which is adorable until you remember this creature could rip a zombie in half. Jiran has to stop him because there are no more seeds left and the wolf has already gotten noticeably bigger since they bonded, which means the growth rate on this thing is terrifying in the best possible way. He's pouring drinking water onto the seeds and thinking hard about how he needs to find a purification device before phase 2 turns every water source into poison, because farming in the apocalypse comes with problems nobody warned him about. He stares out at the city skyline, calculating that waterway protection alone won't cut it, and he'll need an interception fence before the new wave of monsters shows up, and Jiran is basically playing tower defense with his real life at stake. He tells Erpang to guard the island and not let anything get close while he's gone, and the wolf barks back like a soldier receiving orders from his commanding officer, which is genuinely the best boy energy I've ever seen. Jiran pulls up the public chat and it is a disaster. Water everywhere is polluted, zombies are evolving, people are warning about crawlers, someone's forming raiding parties, and there's a group of 6 people actively robbing survivors. So humanity is doing exactly what you'd expect it to do when society collapses. Meanwhile, those bandits from the chat have already found their latest victims because a girl with silver hair is out here carving through zombies with a blade that's as long as she is tall, and she is not messing around. Her partner, this muscular blonde guy, is cleaving zombies with a butcher's cleaver like he's running a very aggressive deli, and honestly these two seem like they have this survival thing figured out. They're walking home proud of their haul, 12 zombies total, looking like a proper duo that could handle anything the apocalypse throws at them. And then something slams into Zhao Yun's neck out of nowhere, and the blonde guy's face shifts from proud to horrified in a fraction of a second. He screams her name as blood sprays from the wound, and she's already going down, and this went from a victory lap to a catastrophe faster than I could blink. Then he gets hit too, claws ripping into him from above, and whatever ambushed them is not interested in a fair fight because both of them are getting shredded before they can even draw their weapons properly. Both of them collapse on the pavement with arrows sticking out of their bodies and blood pooling underneath them, and just like that, 2 capable survivors got deleted by other humans. The killers step forward, and it's a scarred brute yelling at a red-haired woman for killing the girl when he told her not to, and she fires back asking if she alone isn't enough for him, which means this is a robbery team with relationship drama, and that might be the most disgusting combo in the entire series. The redhead tells him to stop wasting time and collect the loot, and I will not lie, she is dangerously attractive for someone who just committed a double homicide without blinking, which only makes her worse as a person. But then the scarred guy freezes and says wait, because Jiran just rolled up with a katana on his shoulder looking like he took a wrong turn into someone else's crime scene and decided to stay anyway. He reads the situation immediately, long-range ambush weapons, fresh bodies, and the calm expression of people who have done this plenty of times before, and Jiran is already calculating how many of them he needs to put down. The redhead tells her partner not to attack yet because Jiran came from the zombie-infested river embankment, limit, meaning anyone who walked through that alive is not someone you shoot first and ask questions later. But the scarred guy gets on comms and calls for backup, telling his boy Lao San to head over because they've spotted fresh prey, and these roaches operate in packs. Jiran is doing the math in his head. 20 seconds to reach the 3rd floor where they're hiding means they'd bolt before he gets there, so he needs a way to bait them into coming down, and the gears behind those eyes are turning at full speed. 2 silhouettes close in from both sides, and Jiran realizes they've split into groups, meaning this whole operation is a coordinated murder ring, and our boy is standing in the middle of it with nothing but a blade and a plan that better be very good. And there's the backup. Lao San rolled up shirtless with a knife-wielding goon and some blonde chick in booty shorts. Like this is a casting call for worst humans alive, and they're already demanding Jiran hand over everything. Jiran just tilts his head with that grin and goes, "I'll be returning those words right back to you." One of these brain-dead bandits launches himself off a building with a blade overhead, screaming for Jiran's neck like he's never heard of a counterattack before. And while he's dealing with that, the red-haired woman fires an arrow from range because of course she's providing cover fire and looking unreasonably good doing it. But Jiran's eyes lock in with that red glint and his body moves before his brain even processes the threat, katana already swinging. The blade connects and Jiran sends this fool flying with a single clean hit that probably rearranged every organ in his torso. Except Lao San is built like a refrigerator with anger issues, and he has Jiran face down in the dirt, calling him trash and waving for the boss to come down like the fight's already over. But then the scarred man yells wait because the red-haired woman just dropped down from the building with a look that says she's done taking orders. She walks right past everyone and announces that since the boss is too scared to come down himself, she's in charge now and everyone listens to her from here on out. And she hits them with that smirk and the earring and the confidence of someone who genuinely believes she's the most dangerous person in this entire district. Meanwhile, Jiran is on the ground bleeding from the shoulder with his fingers still wrapped around his weapon because this fool never lets go of his blade even when he's eating concrete. The scarred man screams for fourth brother to watch out because Jiran's eyes just went full demon mode and the air around him shifted from victim to predator in half a heartbeat. Too late. Jiran carves through fourth brother like he was made of paper, and the amount of red on this panel tells you everything about how surgical that swing was. He looks up drenched in blood with that psychotic grin and goes, "Finally, all gathered," because this absolute maniac was letting them surround him the entire time. The big boss charges in swinging a pipe with every ounce of muscle he's got because at this point it's do or die, and they just realized the prey was the hunter. Jiran paints an arc of light across the night sky and 2 silhouettes get split open simultaneously under the moonlight in what might be the coldest single frame we've gotten so far. The system flashes a grenade warning and Jiran's expression shifts from killer to concerned real fast because explosives are one of the few things his katana can't solve. And the whole block turns into a fireball that swallows everything in frame. The scarred man grabs the red-haired woman and bolts, screaming that Jiran is way too strong, and the fear on his face says he just realized they picked a fight with something they fundamentally cannot beat. The explosion mushrooms between the skyscrapers and lights up the entire district because apparently subtlety was never on the menu tonight. The remaining goons are trapped in the inferno screaming for the boss and getting cooked alive while the 2 leaders have already abandoned them without a backwards glance. Jiran slides down a rooftop next to the flames with his blade in hand, looking like a character who just unlocked the chase sequence in a boss fight. The red-haired woman yells at the scarred man about using his other grenade, but he fires back that Jiran has physique limit, meaning they're outclassed in every physical stat and running is their only option. The scarred man glances back and his blood freezes because there on the rooftop silhouetted against the moon is Jiran keeping pace with them like a wolf trailing wounded deer. He's already caught up and their head start just evaporated because physique limit means Jiran's legs move faster than their entire escape plan. They both stop dead in their tracks, and the reason has nothing to do with Jiran because standing in front of them is a giant zombie the size of a small building with glowing red eyes and an entire horde backing it up like a final boss that brought its own army. Jiran drops down right behind the scarred man with his blade drawn, and the look on this bandit's face says he just realized he's sandwiched between a monster that eats people and a man that slaughters them. So the scarred man does what any cornered rat would do. He begs, says they were wrong, offers half their resources, and asks Jiran to please spare them. Jiran tilts his head and goes, "Do you think I'm a charity? 80% minimum." And the audacity of this man negotiating a robbery in reverse while a building-sized zombie approaches might be the most alpha thing I've witnessed in fiction. They scream that 80% is insane while the giant zombie closes in behind them, and the red-haired woman points out that if they keep stalling, Jiran shrugs with his katana over his shoulder and goes, "Okay then, let's all wait here together," while the system warns him the giant zombie can instantly kill on contact, and this lunatic is playing chicken with his own life just to squeeze out a better deal. The giant zombie roars with enough force to vibrate your screen, and its breath is probably worse than its bite, which is saying something because its bite could split a car in half. Both bandits look like they've seen the exact moment their lives are about to end, and honestly I can't blame them because that thing is close enough to smell. The scarred man caves. 80% fine, but drop the sword first and he'll throw the storage ring over, because even now this fool is trying to negotiate conditions while death is literally breathing down his neck. Jiran lets the katana hit the pavement and stands there unarmed with his arms open like a man who's so confident in his own survival that dropping his weapon feels more like a power move than a concession. But the scarred man is whispering to Zhao Hui that Jiran fell for it. When the zombie gets close, he'll throw the grenade and she'll grab the sword because even without a weapon, a physique limit user is dangerous, but not unkillable. Keep your eye on this. And Jiran is just standing there grinning like he heard every single word and is genuinely entertained by how badly these two are about to miscalculate. The zombie horde charges in like a tidal wave of rotting flesh and glowing eyes, and the window for clever plans just slams shut. The scarred man reaches for his grenade and his hand grabs nothing but pocket lint because the grenade is gone, and the realization hits him like a freight train because Xiaohui's hand is already closing around the blade of the katana. The scarred man barely gets out her name before he realizes she's not grabbing the sword for both of them. She stole his grenade, took the weapon, and now she's about to do what she does best. She launches him straight into the zombie horde like a human sacrifice and books it with the sword because this woman just traded her partner's entire existence for a head start. The giant zombie catches the scarred man like a ragdoll, and the impact alone probably shattered things that shouldn't be shattered. He screams asking why she did this, and I almost feel bad for him, except he was literally plotting to betray Jiran 30 seconds ago, so the karma delivery service is just running express tonight. Xiaohui yells back that if he really loved her, he'd block those zombies for her, and she's sprinting away looking absolutely devastating while weaponizing a man's feelings to buy herself 10 extra seconds of life. Genuinely the most cold-blooded woman in this entire series. The giant zombie tears into the scarred man, and he's screaming that he wanted to live, and honestly this is one of those deaths that hits different because he died betrayed by the person he trusted most. Xiaohui vaults past the now zombified remains of her own partner with a kind of athletic grace that would be impressive if it wasn't so morally bankrupt. Then the grenade goes off and the entire area behind Jiran turns into a second sun. Jiran's grin drops because she detonated it instantly, no hesitation, no flinch, and he realizes this woman planned the double cross from the moment the scarred man first whispered the plan. The giant zombie is still standing with the scarred man's body in its grip, and Jiran is watching from a distance, calculating that fighting this thing head-on is a death sentence he's not ready to sign. But then the zombified scarred man's storage ring catches Jiran's attention because that ring has 80% of a murder crew's supplies in it, and this oversized undead is standing between him and payday. The system tells him to forget the giant zombie and chase the girl instead, which is rare advice from a system that usually just tells him to kill things, so you know that zombie is legitimately terrifying. Jiran bounces off a building wall and decides he'll come back for the loot after he retrieves his Tang sword, because fighting a giant zombie with bare fists is insane even by his standards. And then he spots her. Xiao Yun, the silver-haired girl from earlier, still bleeding out on the pavement where the bandits left her body. A whole new group stumbles across the scene and immediately clocks it as the bandit crew's handiwork, but one of them notices something strange. The resources on the bodies haven't been collected. Someone runs up yelling for Boss Zheng, saying they found the bandit corpses too, and the two leaders exchange a look that's already turning from confusion to alarm. Boss Zheng's brain catches up before his body does, because if the bandits are dead too and nothing's been looted, then these corpses aren't victims. They're bait, and his group just walked right into the trap. He screams for everyone to get on alert, and the whole group of like 15 survivors draws their weapons and forms a circle. And guess who comes sprinting around the corner? Xiaohui, screaming at someone behind her about being crazy and why he chased her instead of picking up the storage ring, which means Jiran chose violence over profit, and that's how you know he's upset. A shot rings out and Xiaohui takes a bullet that sends her crashing to the ground, and as terrible a person as she is, this woman did not deserve the way this panel framed her going down. The survivor group collectively loses their minds because someone just fired an actual firearm, and in an apocalypse where most people are swinging pipes, a gun changes absolutely everything. Jiran walks up with a gun in one hand and his presence alone freezing every single person in place, telling them nobody moves, and this might be the hardest entrance he's ever had because he went from sword boy to armed and dangerous in one scene. But while everyone's scared stiff, Jiran's already checking loot in his system and finds a novice rank water purifier blueprint that needs an ordinary water purifier plus 5 energy core crystals, which means this detour just paid for itself. The purifier only handles slightly polluted water and it's not even drinkable grade, but for watering crops and general use, it's exactly what Jiran needed before phase 2 turns every water source into poison, and Boss Zheng turns to his guy Zhen Yu with a plan. Zheng tells Zhen Yu to grab the storage ring off the corpse and offer it to Jiran as a peace offering, and if that doesn't work, Zhen Yu and Zheng stall him while everyone else evacuates, which means this guy is ready to die for his group. They approach Jiran hands up, claiming they're just passing through with zero hostile intentions, and whether Jiran buys that act or collects another group's tribute is a decision that's about to change the balance of power in this entire district. Now here's what caught everyone off guard about this whole standoff, because while Zheng and his crew are nervously approaching the man who just shot Xiaohui, this woman from their group is crouching there looking like she's ready to bolt at any second, and honestly built way too well for this apocalypse to be fair to anyone watching. Jiran just reloads the shotgun like he's ordering coffee, completely unbothered by the 15 armed survivors staring him down. And the woman jolts because she realizes this lunatic might actually start firing again if somebody breathes wrong. Zheng and Zhen Yu scream watch out like the whole group is about to become a statistic. But Jiran just smirks and tells them he didn't kill that person, and since they found the storage ring first, it belongs to them, which is genuinely the most diplomatic thing this man has ever done, and I'm suspicious. He turns around and starts walking away like he didn't just spare an entire group's worth of lives, and they're shouting thank you and asking for his name because apparently nobody in the apocalypse has encountered basic generosity before. This fool hits them with a grin and says, "You guys can call me Lei Feng." For anyone who doesn't know, Lei Feng is basically China's patron saint of doing good deeds anonymously. He gets back to the rooftop overlooking the zombie zone, and the Tang sword is gone. The storage ring from the scarred man is gone, but the zombie horde is very much still there, so nobody human grabbed it either. This idiot just shrugs and says, forget it, let's go back and farm. Meanwhile, some girl in a yellow jacket with twin tails is swinging his tang sword around saying what a good find and how lucky she is. Somebody out there is playing with Jiran's property and has no idea whose name is on that receipt. Back on the island, the system tells Jiran his meat potato has sprouted and needs 120 days to mature, but he can use speed growth fertilizer once every 3 days to cut that down. This man went from slicing people in half to checking on his crops, and the mood shift gave me whiplash. He dumps 200 mutant fertilizer into the system, fuses 20 speed growth batches, burns through 7 of them in a row, and shaves 60 days off the timer like he's speedrunning Stardew Valley with cheat codes enabled. 3 more days and the meat potato will be fully grown. Then he can harvest seeds and plant them across the entire island. This man is building a food empire before phase 2 even drops. And then the little fluffy white dog trots up carrying a bucket of water in its mouth, and I need you to understand that this tiny creature has more work ethic than most people I know in real life. The novice rank water purifier is actually working, filtering the water clean enough for crops, and the little furball is delivering it like an employee of the month. Jiran scoops up the dog, praises it, and says once they finish watering, they're heading out to fight zombies together. The Apocalypse Farmer arc just hit its coziest moment, and I genuinely wish it lasted longer. Night falls and Jiran is back in the city running through alleys when a blue energy projectile rips through the darkness and tears apart whatever was standing between those buildings. He's launching energy attacks with both hands now, condensing some kind of force sphere and detonating it on contact like he unlocked a whole new skill tree between farming sessions. Because Erpang didn't just come along for the ride. The tiny fluffball transformed into a full-blown Howl Moon Wolf King surrounded by red-eyed zombies, and the size difference between what this dog was 5 minutes ago and what it is now should be medically investigated. Jiran is leaping across rooftops complimenting his pet's combat form while simultaneously telling himself he needs to level up faster because the little furball might actually be outpacing him. 13 zombie corpses collected, 5 mutant fertilizer, 19 energy core crystals. This man turned his nightly zombie run into a grocery shopping trip with express checkout. But then the wolf version of Erpang goes absolutely feral. Claws out, fangs bared, chasing something through the streets that is definitely not a regular zombie. Jiran spots it from the rooftop and yells for Erpang to stop chasing because whatever that thing is, it's dangerous, and his dog is about to find out. Too late. The wolf slams into a mutant creeper. This ugly red-eyed thing built like a tumor with legs, and the two of them are tearing chunks out of each other in the middle of the street. And then 2 more creepers dive in from above like a coordinated ambush because these things hunt in packs, and Erpang just walked into the buffet line as the main course. They latch onto the wolf's body from every direction, biting and clawing, and suddenly the Howl Moon Wolf King is looking a lot less king and a lot more lunch. One of those red-eyed nightmares sinks its teeth straight into Erpang's neck, and the close-up on its face is genuinely the most unsettling thing this manhwa has drawn so far. The wolf howls in agony as the creepers rip into it, and if this dog dies, I am personally filing a complaint against the author because we are not losing Erpang like this. Erpang reverts to a smaller form and starts bolting through the streets with the creepers hot on its tail, and the power difference just became terrifyingly obvious. Jiran drops in screaming hang in there and carves a creeper in half with an ice blade before his feet even touch the ground. This is the entrance this dog needed, but there's more of them. Way more. Jiran is fighting on every side with creepers crawling over walls, and he knows one wrong move means both of them get devoured. He fires off another strike, the impact flashing white hot against the concrete, and dodges a tentacle that would have collected his head as a souvenir. A creeper crunches down on the wolf and Jiran's weapon snaps clean in 2. He's standing there with half a blade going, well, that's a problem. The creeper swats Erpang like a rag doll, and the wolf goes flying while Jiran can only watch because he's got nothing left to swing. But instead of panicking, this absolute maniac pulls something from his storage and grins at the approaching creepers, saying perfect, now he doesn't have to go looking for it. The creeper lunges with its tentacles spread wide and its mouth open like it's trying to swallow a grown man whole. Jiran pulls out a new weapon crackling with energy, and his eyes lock onto this thing with the kind of focus that tells you someone is about to delete a creature from existence. He splits that creeper down the middle like he was filleting a fish, and the pieces haven't even hit the ground before he's already pivoting to the next one. System confirms the kill, 15 energy core crystals deposited, and Jiran yells at Erpang to guard his back because there's still more coming. These two are fighting back to back like a duo that's been doing this for years. Erpang spots another creeper charging from behind, and this little wolf is battered, bleeding, but still growling like giving up isn't in the vocabulary. The blade catches the creeper mid-lunge and bisects it right on top of the wolf's back like a precision surgical strike that would make a surgeon jealous. The severed pieces of the creeper go sailing through the air, and for one beautiful second, it looks like they might actually clear this whole mess. Jiran lands next to Erpang, screaming at the wolf to stop biting and finish the fight because something feels wrong about this area, and they need to get out immediately. That bad feeling was right because creepers start pouring in from every shadow, every alley, red eyes multiplying in the darkness like someone just kicked the nest, and the nest is the size of a city block. Erpang is surrounded on all sides, tiny white fur against a sea of red-eyed monstrosities, and this shot from above makes the dog look so small that my chest physically hurts. Jiran grabs Erpang and mounts the wolf's back as it shifts to full size, and both of their faces say the exact same thing. He's sprinting through the moonlit streets with Erpang back in small form running beside him, creeper silhouettes everywhere, muttering that if he knew this would happen, he'd have left the dog at home. The regret in his voice is genuine for once. A creeper lands right in front of him, with its tentacles spread wide, and Jiran just stares at this thing like his to-do list tonight will literally never end. They're completely boxed in now, creepers closing from every direction, and Jiran starts thinking out loud that this swarm is unnatural. Could it be that a phase change is about to happen? Because that would explain why every mutant in the district just woke up at once. He makes the call to split up and Peng bolts in the opposite direction as they scatter into the apartment blocks, which is either a brilliant survival strategy or the worst idea he's ever had. Meanwhile, across the district, two random survivors with a sword and a baseball bat hear something approaching and they have absolutely no idea what kind of night they're about to have. One of them is yelling to move faster before they attract a zombie horde. And the girl behind him is clutching supplies like her life depends on it, which it literally does. They step outside and a creeper is already on the pavement twitching toward them while more red eyes flicker in the distance, and whatever they thought tonight was going to be, the streets are crawling with them. Creepers everywhere, red eyes covering every corner of the city skyline, and whatever phase shift Jiran was worried about isn't coming. These poor fools with a baseball bat spot 4 creepers rounding the corner and the confidence drains out of their faces faster than my bank account on payday. And then this woman steps into frame with a sword slung over her shoulder and an outfit that has absolutely no business being in an apocalypse, ponytail swinging like she's walking into a gym, not a war zone, asking why there are suddenly so many creepers while the girl behind her clutches supplies and realizes they can't go back the way they came. Because a creeper just launched itself at one of the survivors like a missile with teeth, and this fool barely has time to register what's happening before it's on top of him. They scramble inside a building, and this guy is throwing everything he can find against the door while the girl behind him looks like she's already picking out her funeral outfit. The creepers ram the barricade, and these two are bracing against it with everything they've got, which is not a lot when your combined combat experience is 0. Pull back to an aerial view of the whole district, and it's chaos on every rooftop and alley. People scattering like ants while creepers hunt them down from every direction. But then there's Jiran carving through the swarm like he's harvesting wheat, blue energy ripping a creeper apart, and the system casually depositing 10 more energy core crystals into his pocket like he's getting tips for being efficient. The sword lady and her group spot him from a distance, and one of them shouts that someone is surrounded by creepers, which is technically true, except the creepers are the ones who should be worried. One look at the carnage and they realize this maniac is one-shotting everything in sight, and the shorter girl's eyes go wide because she recognizes him immediately. Jiran is wading through creepers like he's grinding a dungeon. He's 10 levels overqualified for, red eyes swarming him from every angle, and he's just methodically deleting them from existence. Ponytail lady screams at him to watch his back, and honestly her worried face covered in dirt and blood is doing something to me that I'm not proud of given the circumstances. He doesn't even flinch, just pivots and sends a blue arc through the air that splits whatever was sneaking up behind him clean in half. Then he drives his weapon straight through the chest of a massive creeper, the impact detonating like a flashbang. And this is genuinely the most disrespectful kill he's landed all night. Meanwhile, back at base, Twintails wakes up in bed flushed and overheating, mumbling about how hot she feels, and the artist chose violence with this framing because there was no reason to draw her like that. She's touching her flushed cheeks, wondering why her face is burning up, and I need everyone to understand I am holding on to the last thread of my composure right now. A system panel pops up congratulating her on becoming an awakener, talent activated, and this girl literally napped her way into superpowers while everyone else is outside getting mauled for the same privilege. Back outside, Shenyu stands with the group including our sword-wielding ponytail goddess, and calls off the knight's plan entirely because the creeper situation is too unnatural to risk it, and they're heading back to the gymnasium. Somewhere across the district, some poor fool is sprinting for his life, screaming that creepers have been chasing him for 6 entire streets, and honestly that's the most cardio anyone has gotten in this apocalypse. And then every single creeper just freezes in place, digital particles flickering around their bodies like someone just pressed pause on the server. Jiran looks up at a massive system broadcast declaring that someone illegally leveled up to Awakener, and because of that, Phase 2 is activating early with 59 seconds until a full game refresh. He puts it together instantly. Someone cheated and now the whole world pays the price. The system spells it out. Phase 2 means larval creepers are evolving into adults. Massive threat. Kill them now while you can. And this lunatic grins because where everyone else sees a death sentence, he sees a farming opportunity. 39 seconds on the clock and Zhenyu is sprinting through the streets with his group screaming to find cover immediately because whatever is about to refresh, nobody wants to be standing in the open for it. 25 seconds left and Jiran is standing there watching the game resources load in, blue energy crackling around him while the system schedules. The preview materializes as virtual shadows and it is horrifying. Giant zombies towering over buildings plus an entire army of evolved creepers filling the streets like someone cranked the spawn rate to maximum. Jiran's route home is completely walled off by the spawning zombie horde, so he asks the system for an alternate path because walking through that is basically signing your own death certificate. No other options. 15 seconds left and he mutters forget it. He'll just push through, launching himself over the zombie crowd with nothing but stubbornness. Another survivor catches on to what Phase 2 actually means and realizes it's designed to wipe out every living human in the zone, which is exactly the kind of motivational speech nobody needed right now. 8 seconds on the timer and Jiran is wedged between zombies closing in from every angle, the countdown ticking in his face while a giant red-eyed nightmare looms over him from below. 5 seconds left and the system drops a hidden hint directing him to a truck, which is a great gift except he can't even get the door open in time, so thanks for nothing. 3 seconds. He gives up on the door and just throws himself under the truck because dignity stopped mattering about 40 seconds ago. He slides underneath on his back just as the refresh hits and the world above him transforms into something significantly worse. Phase 2 officially begins. The system cheerfully tells everyone to enjoy the game, and Jiran is hiding behind a barrel in the dark, tripping over a rock like the most undignified protagonist in Manhwa history. Because the first Phase 2 adult creeper has arrived, and this thing is not the scrawny larva from before. It's a full-grown predator launching itself at him with the kind of speed that rewrites your survival odds in real time. Jiran's eyes go red as he barely tracks the thing and realizes it's massive but also terrifyingly fast, which is just unfair game design on every level. The adult creeper slams into the wall right next to him with enough force to crack concrete, and Jiran's face says everything his mouth won't. It clips him and sends him ragdolling through the air like a training dummy someone forgot to bolt down. He barely rolls out of the next swing and admits to himself that he can't match this thing's speed, and dragging the fight out is just a slower way to die. The adult creeper roars down at him with a mouth full of teeth the size of kitchen knives, and Jiran confesses that without the Tang sword he's outmatched, which is the first time this man has ever admitted a disadvantage out loud. So he does the smart thing for once and bolts toward the truck, deciding to live another day instead of dying like a hero, and a tentacle whips past him close enough to part his hair. He rips open the back of the truck, and sitting right there wrapped in canvas is a rocket launcher. And I need a moment because this just went from survival horror to an action movie in one panel. The adult creeper charges the truck at full speed, mouth open, absolutely certain it's about to collect its meal. Jiran climbs into the cab, shoulders the launcher, and takes aim at the approaching nightmare with the composure of a man who just found the answer key to a test he was failing. He grins and tells the creeper to eat this, and that might be the coldest one-liner delivery in this entire manhwa so far. The rocket leaves the tube and connects point-blank with the creeper's face in a detonation that turns the entire frame into fire and shrapnel. The explosion rips through the street like someone just called in an airstrike on a single target, and I refuse to believe this was proportional, but I am not complaining. Meanwhile, across the district, Zhenyu is covered in blood and screaming for everyone to hang in there and work together because if they unite, they can definitely escape, and his energy right now is genuinely commendable for a man who was ready to run 5 minutes ago. Ponytail Lady is swinging her sword through zombies with her back arched and her shoulders flexed, and the artist drew this from behind on purpose because they knew exactly what they were doing to us. But not everyone is holding it together because one kid is screaming that he doesn't want to die while a zombie reaches for his face, and the gap between Jiran's power and these normal survivors has never felt wider. A giant zombie foot comes down and flattens whatever was underneath it like stepping on a grape, and I physically recoiled from my screen. The group looks up and the giant zombie is standing over them, a building-sized monstrosity with red eyes and muscles that make it look like the final boss walked off its platform and into the overworld. Is this what Phase 2 is? Zhenyu loses it completely, screaming that the giant zombie is heading straight for them and they're all gonna die here tonight, an honestly fair reaction when something that size is walking toward you. But he catches himself, takes a breath, and tells everyone to stay calm and move together, find a gap in the zombie formation where the defense is thin enough to break through. Boss Zheng shuts that plan down immediately and says no, someone has to go out there and personally bait the giant zombie away from the group or nobody gets through alive. And the way his jaw tightens tells you he already knows who that someone is going to be. He says he's got a plan to get them out alive, but he needs a few brothers willing to sacrifice themselves, and the weight of that word hangs in the air like a funeral bell because he is asking people to volunteer to die. Zhenyu's face when he hears that tells you everything. Would you volunteer knowing you're not coming back? But Zhenyu is not having it and tells Boss Zheng to shut his mouth. He goes off about survival of the fittest, about how sacrifices are necessary, and then points dead at Zheng and tells him his personality doesn't fit to be their leader. Zheng cuts him off with a single word, and the authority behind it shuts the whole group down instantly. Because Ponytail Lady, still looking unreasonably good while covered in grime, screams that the giant zombie is heading straight for them right now. Zhenyu takes charge whether anyone likes it or not, screaming for everyone to follow him to the manhole cover while sprinting through the zombie crowd. And then the giant's foot comes down right behind them like a building being dropped from orbit, and everyone collectively loses what little composure they had left. But that's not even the worst part, because blocking their escape route is a fully evolved adult crawler with red eyes and a face that belongs in a Lovecraft novel. Zhenyu spots something glinting nearby and his whole expression changes because he recognizes exactly what that blade is. The adult crawler drops down in front of them like a mid-boss that just spawned in the wrong hallway, and someone behind him screams that it's over. Boss Zheng hits him with the coldest "I told you so" in apocalypse history, saying even the bait plan is useless now because they're completely boxed in. And then headlights cut through the darkness and somebody screams that there's a truck barreling straight toward them like a guardian angel on 18 wheels. Because Jiran, this beautiful maniac, has been plowing through zombies in a truck this entire time, and the system is feeding him energy core crystals like candy at a parade. Every zombie that gets turned into road paste gives him more crystals, and the notifications are stacking faster than he can count them. And then the system drops the notification he's been grinding toward this entire time. 508 out of 300 crystals required. Condition satisfied. Do you wish to level up? This fool doesn't even hesitate, just slams that confirm button like his life depends on it, which it literally does. Novice rank 1 Awakener, talent system activated, and he's already sitting at 288 out of 1200 for the next rank because this man treats the apocalypse like a speedrun. He grips the steering wheel with both hands, and there is something genuinely unhinged about his level of calm right now. Meanwhile, the survivors see the truck coming and start screaming that they're saved like they just spotted a lifeboat on the Titanic. But Jiran is not here to play taxi driver. He's perched in the back with that rocket launcher shouldered again, looking like he was born to wage a one-man war. The rocket leaves the tube and tears across the street with a smoke trail that might as well be a signature. And the entire block gets redecorated in fire and shrapnel for the second time tonight because apparently one explosion was not enough for this man. The blast wave hits the survivors and Ponytail Lady is shielding the group while screaming that it's amazing. And honestly, she looks incredible doing it. And there she is, ponytail lady with the face of a woman who just found out her crush can also blow things up, whispering that it's him. Zhenyu wastes zero time screaming for everyone to follow the truck because when a war machine on wheels clears your path, you do not ask questions. But the alleys are still crawling with red-eyed zombies closing in from every direction, and the window to escape is shrinking by the second. Now here's where it gets wild, because we cut to Twin Tail's girl just casually strolling through a zombie horde like she's walking through a park, explaining that her talent lets her become a zombie and blend in. And she spots a tiny white dog barking its heart out in the middle of this nightmare, and her eyes immediately light up because of course they do. This little cotton ball of a dog is growling like it personally wants to fight every zombie on the block, and she calls it cute, which is the most unhinged reaction to a feral Pomeranian I have ever seen. Back with the survivor group, Zhenyu and Zhang are watching Jiran's truck disappear into the distance and already scheming about whether to tail him. But Zhenyu shuts that down immediately because they already tried recruiting this guy and got ignored. And you do not poke a man who owns a rocket launcher. Ponytail lady is watching the truck fade with her sword resting on her shoulder, quietly noting that he's gotten even stronger since they last met, and the look on her face tells me she is not just talking about combat ability. Jiran's truck rolls up to his fenced-off base, and that same little white dog comes sprinting out of the gate, barking like it just saw its whole world pull up in a semi. He kneels down to greet Pang and immediately notices the dog's wounds are fully healed, which definitely did not happen on its own. Pang is bouncing around him, barking with the kind of energy that says somebody visited while you were gone and it was not the mailman. Someone yells zombie big brother from the balcony and Jiran's head snaps up because there should not be anyone in his house right now. He's piecing it together, asking the dog if their mystery guest is the one who patched up its injuries, and Pang confirms it like a tiny fluffy witness. And then Twin Tail's girl launches herself off the balcony with a sword overhead, screaming she won't let zombie big brother die in the wild, and I need everyone to look at the way the artist drew this mid-air pose because the thighs alone could end conflicts. Jiran dodges her swing without breaking a sweat and goes, "Brat, so it's you," with the energy of a man who just recognized his least favorite neighbor. He grabs her by the head with one hand, holds her arm's length, and then notices that the sword she just tried to murder him with is literally his own Tang sword that she borrowed without asking. She's whining about how she tracked him down after becoming a zombie, and he should be grateful. But Jiran coldly tells her not to act familiar and then notices something off about her appearance. This little gremlin grins and proudly reveals her awakened skill, and the way her eyes go dark tells me she is significantly more dangerous than her height suggests. So naturally, Jiran's response is to immediately try to delete her with a sword swing, because when someone shows you a suspicious new power, the correct move is apparently attempted murder. She barely dodges his follow-up slash, and honestly watching her panic while those twin tails whip around is giving me feelings I should not be having about someone this chaotic. But she activates her skill mid-dodge and screams trap, and her face right here is pure feral energy with those wide eyes locked onto him. Green zombie fog erupts around Jiran, and the system explains it's a green rank talent that can actually convert people into zombies, which means this little brat just debuffed the protagonist. Jiran is coughing through the fog and immediately switches to diplomacy, telling her to stop and that he was just testing her, and then in the same breath admits her talent is actually incredible. He's doing the math in his head, realizing she's the third awakener besides himself and that other cheater, but her personality is a liability and she can't fight at all, so keeping her close is a problem. So he politely thanks her for healing Pang, notes that she already cleaned out his entire fridge, and asks if she could kindly leave now, and Xiaoxi hits him with the audacity of calling him boss and demanding he cover her meals. This fool pulls out a megaphone from somewhere, screams at her to get lost, and she desperately pivots to offering skill books, blueprints, and 30 ring fragments as rent like a tenant who just got an eviction notice. He grabs her by the collar, saying absolutely not, that sleeping near her costs him mental health, and she panics and drops the ultimate bargaining chip. She knows where an arsenal is hidden, and just like that his entire attitude flips because bullets are a finite resource, and this man runs through ammunition like water, so he demands to know the location immediately. But Xiaoxi is not stupid. She says she needs to figure out what the information is worth before giving it up, and that little pout is doing way more negotiating work than it should be. Jiran turns to Pang and tells the dog to stay near her at all times, especially at night, and report any suspicious behavior immediately, because apparently a Pomeranian is now serving as a federal agent. She heads inside like she owns the place, and Jiran suddenly remembers she promised skill books and blueprints too, which means this girl just conned her way into free housing and he's only now realizing it. This little gremlin has the audacity to play dumb, asking what skill books and claiming Jiran must have misheard her like she didn't literally use them as a bargaining chip 5 minutes ago. But Jiran, with those red demon eyes fully activated, flips the whole negotiation by saying he already has enough bullets and weapons, so the arsenal intel is basically worthless to him now. And faster than a refund scam, Xiaoxi suddenly remembers she totally does have skill books and blueprints. But Jiran hits her with the coldest smirk, telling her not to play tricks because he was born at night, not last night. She just tosses everything out before he can refuse, because this girl operates on the philosophy that it is easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission. And the hall is genuinely loaded: expert rock climbing, clothing master, wood collecting, an accurate longbow blueprint, and an analyze eye skill that lets you scan enemy stats in real time like you're playing a live service RPG. Jiran absorbs every single one without even blinking because his system treats skill acquisition like a download bar that only knows 100%, and now this man can craft gear, build bows and see through opponents like a walking cheat terminal. She also forks over 30 ring fragments, and Jiran praises her for being cooperative, which is the most patronizing thing you can say to someone who just handed over their entire net worth. In return, he assigns her an Erpang to mutant potato farming duty because stage 2 is coming and food is about to become more valuable than ammunition, which is saying something for this man. Xiaoxi cheerfully salutes and takes the job while privately thinking she never has to step foot outside a zombie-infested city again, and honestly, she just finessed the best employment contract in the apocalypse. Jiran heads inside and immediately starts grinding his new clothing master skill, with the system prompting him to craft level 1 protective gear, using 120 pieces of clean cloth because even Doomsday has a dress code. But then his system menu cracks open into 2 entirely separate upgrade paths: gene improvement for raw physical buffs like strength and speed, and energy improvement for crystal utilization and damage scaling. And the system drops the big one. It has detected that Jiran is the world's first legally recognized awakener and is awarding him a double talent as a first-place prize, which means being early actually pays off in this world, unlike crypto. He activates both and the stat notifications start flooding in. Strong Body gives 10 times recovery speed, virus immunity, and a 50% boost to strength, speed, and reflexes. Enlightenment wraps him in pure energy with plus 10 damage, minus 10 damage taken, and 20% better crystal efficiency. Jiran flexes his hands with lightning arcing between his fingers and casually declares that with his energy shield and Tang sword, even the large zombies are free experience points now, and the confidence on this man borders on clinical. Now we cut somewhere that is living a completely different reality, because at a survivor camp there is a man desperately hammering nails into a wooden barricade while zombie faces press through the gaps like they are personally offended by construction materials. And those nails are already bending and snapping because a 2x4 and some hardware store supplies were never going to hold against a horde that does not understand business hours. A kid states the obvious that nobody wanted to hear: even if the zombies stay out, they also cannot get out. And that equation only has one ending. And this man completely shatters, tears and sweat running together as he screams that this camp is their grave now. And the look in his eyes says he already buried himself. A woman tries to grab him and shake some fight back into him, reminding everyone they have survived traps and disasters before. But the man starts cackling in a way that makes my skin crawl, because his eyes have already gone red and he lunges at her, screaming that surviving was easy for people who never got hurt, and his fingernails look a lot sharper than they did 10 seconds ago. Someone screams the warning to Zhen Yu that the man was bitten and is actively turning right now, and every person in that room just realized the threat was inside the building the whole time. The half-turned zombie throws himself at the woman trying to infect her too, and the desperation mixed with rage in his voice is genuinely the scariest thing this manhwa has shown me in a while. But a blade carves clean through the air and separates the problem from the living in one swing, and whoever delivered that stroke was not hesitating for even a fraction of a second. The ponytail fighter stumbles back in shock with blood still hanging in the air around her, and I need to acknowledge that this woman in a crop top and cargo pants during the zombie apocalypse is an artistic decision I will be thinking about for the rest of this video. Someone barks the order, everyone who got injured step forward immediately, and that tone is not asking, it is sentencing. Because Hong Da is standing there with a blood-soaked blade announcing that anyone bitten gets quarantined peacefully until they finish turning, and the word peacefully is doing a lot of heavy lifting when paired with that expression. Hong Da and his boys line up with weapons drawn, making it publicly clear that anyone caught hiding a wound is going to have a very brief conversation about honesty. The remaining survivors collectively look like they just realized the monsters outside might not be the biggest problem in this room. One guy stands there absolutely frozen, sweat pouring, unable to form a single word because silence is the only move he has left. A few of them finally step forward, trembling, admitting they are injured, walking towards something they already know has no return trip. Hong Da grins at their obedience and says very good, and the gap between the terrified kid above and this man's satisfied smile below might be the most disturbing contrast in this entire manhwa. Then he draws his knife on the group that just surrendered, and their faces tell you they understand the difference between quarantine and execution. About someone screams Hong Da's name, begging him to stop because there is a line between survival and slaughter, and this lunatic just vaulted over it. But Hong Da is already mid-swing, and the guy who tried to intervene gets launched backward like a participation trophy for bravery. From overhead you see the full scope of it, bodies scattered, people scrambling, and Hong Da planted in the center like the eye of a hurricane made of bad decisions. This maniac delivers a full-force strike with zero hesitation and a child watching from the corner, which makes everything about this scene approximately 1,000% worse. Blood fans out from his weapon in an arc so clean the artist clearly had personal feelings about making this as visceral as humanly possible. A figure stands silhouetted and absolutely drenched in red, calling out to Lao Zheng by name, and his message is 2 words: don't be too kind, which coming from someone wearing other people as a paint job should qualify as the most unhinged advice of the century. Hong Da stands over the fallen with the ponytail fighter and Zhen Yu flanking him, and the floor is decorated in the kind of evidence that no amount of mopping will fix. Hong Da gets inches from someone's face, screaming about a broken promise. Didn't you swear you would let that man live until the end? The ponytail fighter steps in to defend the fallen, arguing he was the most serious worker they had, and the way she's trembling while still speaking up tells me she has more spine than anyone else left standing. She says he was a good person who did nothing wrong, and the way this bound man lies there while someone argues for his life like a parole hearing in the end times is genuinely painful to watch. Zhen Yu finally snaps and swings at Hong Da, calling him every name in the book, but Hong Da fires right back, screaming that Zhen Yu of all people is attacking the man who saved his life, and did he forget that? And the rage compressed into Hong Da's face could bend steel because betrayal from someone you bled for hits on a frequency that regular anger cannot reach, Hands grab his arm wrestling for control because if this fight escalates one more notch, the zombies outside are going to walk into a room that already finished their job. The ponytail fighter physically wedges herself between them, telling Zhen Yu to keep his bow down because they are surrounded by a horde and internal conflict is a death sentence for everyone in this building. Lao Zheng groans in pain from somewhere behind them, and the timing of that sound does not feel coincidental, because the ponytail fighter smirks and cyan energy crackles to life across her body like she's been sandbagging her power level this entire time. And I personally need a moment because this woman in combat gear with awakening energy rolling off her midriff is doing critical damage to my focus. Hongda's expression shifts to something he has not shown once this entire fight. Genuine alarm because the calculus in this room just changed and he missed the variable. He declares that anyone with murderous intent toward him forfeits their right to keep breathing, and the ponytail fighter can only watch as this man sprints past the point of no return. Zhen Yu throws himself at Hongda one more time because apparently the first beating was not enough of a lesson. And Hongda just demolishes him, beating him into the concrete, stamping him flat, making it painfully clear why he runs the muscle in this group and Zhen Yu absolutely does not. But then Hongda grabs his own stomach and blood is soaking through his shirt from a wound that was definitely not there when the fight started. He whips around on Lao Zheng screaming about a hidden killing move. His own childhood friend just buried a blade in him while he was distracted, and the betrayal in his voice could fill a Shakespeare play. Hongda turns that fury on Zhen Yu, ripping him apart verbally. Can't kill the infected, can't kill the traitors, can't kill anyone, calling him submissive and swearing that kindness is what will bury this camp once and for all. The man is coughing blood mid-lecture because his body is shutting down but his mouth refuses to follow the same schedule. His hand presses against the wound trying to hold himself together, and the blood is winning that argument by a wide margin. He looks at the handful of people still standing and admits that out of the 12 classmates who arrived together, he was always the one most terrified of dying, and that confession hits harder than any blade in this room. Then he drops to his knees in front of Zhen Yu and says, "You saved my life once, so today I am giving it back to you." Hongda begs Zhen Yu to finish it. Kill me right here. And this might be the most emotionally complex villain breakdown in this entire manhwa, because this man was monstrous and genuine at the exact same time. Zhen Yu's eyes glow red as he stares down at the man who just purged his people and then offered his own throat as payment. But instead of delivering the finishing blow, Zhen Yu orders 2 people to take Hongda and get him treated immediately, because this kid just chose mercy when every ounce of logic said otherwise. He tells every person in that room to forget what happened tonight and never speak of it again, and the red glow in his eyes says this is not a request, it is a command from someone who just became a leader by refusing to become a killer. The ponytail fighter pulls Zhen Yu aside and asks the question nobody wants answered: how long will the food last? Zhen Yu makes a decision right there. Tomorrow, when the zombie horde thins out, he is going outside alone to scavenge for supplies, and the way he says it tells you he has already accepted what that probably means. And her face drops because solo scavenging in a city packed with undead is not a supply run, it is a coin flip with your life as the wager. He tells her that if he does not return by tomorrow night, disband the group and let everyone scatter, and the tears rolling down her face as she whispers, "Captain tells you everything about who this kid has become and what it might cost him." Meanwhile, Jiran's been busy playing Apocalypse Farmer because seeds are sprouting out of the ground like he unlocked a Stardew Valley expansion pack. Pang charges in like a fluffy wrecking ball and starts digging up meat potatoes while Xiaoxi cheers from behind like she's coaching a little league game. Xiaoxi is cradling these potatoes like they're her firstborn children, gushing about having enough food for the 3 of them for an entire week. And this fool is just lying on the grass like he's on vacation, casually reminding them to save the seeds and plant more because even in the zombie apocalypse, Jiran is thinking about quarterly growth. But then Xiaoxi, bless her undead heart, suggests using her corpse fog to dry the potatoes for preservation. Jiran nearly leaves his own body screaming about how she's trying to turn 2 humans and 1 dog into zombies with her dehydrator from hell. She hits him with the most unbothered pout in recorded history, mumbling about how she just wanted to try it and finds she won't do it because the system confirms that anything touched by green rank zombie corpse fog gets laced with zombie poison while keeping its appearance and taste completely unchanged. And the gears in this man's head start turning because instead of panicking, he tells Xiaoxi to go ahead and try it on just 1 potato so they can see the effect. So she channels her corpse fog and green energy rolls off her hands like some kind of apocalypse seasoning, engulfing the plants below. The plants look completely identical and Jiran's brain immediately goes to the darkest possible application because this idiot just realized he's holding an invisible biological weapon. They stand over their little farm looking at perfectly normal potatoes that are secretly loaded with zombie juice, and honestly the Geneva Convention would like a word. The system pops up with collect meat potato times 31, and even the notification name stays the same, which means Jiran has to remember not to accidentally poison himself with his own supply. Then he turns to the leftover plants and vacuums up 165 wood materials because the grind never sleeps. And just like that, our boy feeds the system 100 wood materials and 10 energy crystal cores, and it spits out 10 longbows plus 30 arrows like a vending machine for violence. Bows and arrows rain down from the crafting menu like Christmas morning at a medieval armory, and Xiaoxi is just standing there watching the inventory pile up. She immediately suggests selling them on the mall in exchange for gasoline, food, water, and crystal cores, but Jiran points out each bow only comes with 3 arrows, which seems pretty stingy. Except that's the whole plan, because once buyers get hooked on the bows, they'll keep coming back for arrows, and Jiran can jack up the price whenever he feels like it, and this man just invented planned obsolescence during the apocalypse. Xiaoxi gets this scheming little grin and promises to sell every last one, and honestly this zombie girl was born for the hustle economy. But then a trade notification hits from someone named Zhao Shiyue, and Jiran pauses because it's been a while since they were in contact. She just dumps a pile of mutant fertilizer, energy crystal cores, clean cloth, flashlights and batteries into the trade window with zero negotiation, and Jiran's wondering why she's trading directly without even setting a price. Then a video call opens and there she is, laughing like someone who's already accepted something that the rest of us haven't caught up to yet. She asks why he opened a video call and says she's already decided to give up, and those words land like a brick through a window. Jiran's face drops instantly, asking what happened and what's wrong because the tone of her voice just told him everything he didn't want to hear. And that's when something massive crashes through her wall on the other end of the feed, glass and debris flying everywhere while she screams. She chokes out a goodbye through the chaos, telling Jiran she was happy to know him, thanking him for helping her survive this long and hoping the supplies she traded will be useful to him. Jiran is screaming her name through the screen, demanding to know her location because this fool is not about to let someone say goodbye on his watch. He yells that he can save her with everything in his lungs, and honestly the raw desperation in this panel could shatter glass. Xiaoxi catches a glimpse of the video and recognizes the background, blurting out that whatever monster has a paw the size of a window. Jiran whips around and grabs Xiaoxi with a look that says every second wasted is a second Xie might not have. He's shaking her, demanding the location right now, and she's crying out that she'll tell him if he just lets go of her collar first. She pulls up the map and points, saying she only walked the perimeter last time and never went deeper inside the arsenal grounds. That's all Jiran needed because he pumps his fist and declares they're heading to the arsenal right now, and the energy shift from chill farmer to rescue mission protagonist. Their truck tears through the ruined streets at night with zombies scattered across the road like traffic cones that want to eat you. Xiaoxi notes the zombie tide finally receded, but tons of people must have died in the city yesterday, while Jiran keeps his eyes forward, whispering for Shiwei to hang in there. But wait, because as they approach the arsenal area, someone is already outside with a blade fighting a mutant zombie solo, surrounded by bodies, and this scene has a familiar energy. Xiaoxi nearly jumps out of her seat, yelling that some lunatic is challenging a mature crawler alone, and she says it like it's the dumbest thing she's ever witnessed. And this madman is dodging the crawler's strikes by the thinnest margin possible, throwing everything he has at a creature that outclasses him in every stat that matters. The crawler retaliates with a slash that could bisect a sedan, and the sheer force difference between these two fighters is making my palms sweat, because this thing's face is pure nightmare fuel. Red eyes glowing, jaws wide enough to park a bicycle in, and teeth that would make a dentist quit their profession on the spot. The two of them collide mid-air, and this kid is actually trading blows with a monster 3 weight classes above him, through pure adrenaline and stubbornness alone. Jiran's analyzed eye snaps online as they close the distance, scanning the fight from the truck and pulling up data on the lone swordsman outside. Our boy grips the steering wheel with Pang riding shotgun, and that look in his eyes says the rescue mission just got a second objective. The system reads extreme physique with adrenaline active and only 1 out of 300 toward the next level, meaning this kid just evolved recently and he's already picking fights with things that should eat him alive, which is objectively crazier than anything Jiran has done. The swordsman launches a horizontal slash with enough force to leave a trail of light in the air, and you can tell from his face this is desperation pretending to be bravery. The crawler whips its tail like a serrated bullwhip, and the impact would fold a normal person in half without thinking twice about it. The fighter breaks into a full sprint, legs burning, because staying still against this thing means donating your body to the food chain. And then he hears it before he sees it. A truck engine screaming through the dead city, and his face says he cannot believe what's happening because a reinforced truck just flattened a zombie like it was a speed bump with opinions. The truck barrels down the highway through the broken skyline of a city that stopped functioning days ago, headlights cutting through the dark like a lighthouse for the desperate. Jiran barks at everyone to hold on tight, and the way he says it tells you the gentle driving portion of this evening is officially over. Because this maniac floors the accelerator straight through a crowd of zombies, turning undead bodies into road decorations as they bounce off the grill like ragdolls at a demolition derby. Everyone inside the cab is getting tossed around like laundry in a dryer, and Xiaoxi is clutching Pang for dear life while Jiran drives like vehicular manslaughter is a competitive sport. The wheels roll over zombie after zombie, and the system is just casually dispensing energy core crystal notifications like a slot machine that only hits jackpots. Xiaoxi's eyes light up because she's also getting crystal drops, and she starts gushing about how following the boss has such incredible benefits. Here's where the free experience stops being free, because a massive zombie on the side of the road spots the truck and reacts like it just found dinner with wheels. Xiaoxi shouts about the large zombie incoming, and even Pang starts barking because everyone in this vehicle has functioning survival instincts except the driver, apparently. Jiran narrows his eyes with that look that says he's already done the math, and the math says floor it. The reinforced truck plows straight through the thing, and blood paints the entire vehicle like a modern art installation that nobody asked for. Xiaoxi exhales and admits that was close, and with her hair tied up and that relieved profile, she's actually giving off kind of a cute vibe that I'm choosing to acknowledge right now. Jiran flashes a grin and tells them this reinforced heavy truck can handle even more large zombies without breaking a sweat, and the confidence on this man right now is borderline attractive even to me, which is exactly when something with glowing red eyes slams onto the roof of the truck, because the universe heard him getting cocky and immediately sent a correction. Xiaoxi screams that it's a crawler while Jiran's whole demeanor shifts from road trip vibes to combat readiness in under a second. The thing is clinging to the side of the truck, claws digging into reinforced steel like it's cardboard. and another one is already flanking from underneath. A second crawler launches itself onto the truck from above with its red eyes blazing and tentacle mouth open wide because one wasn't enough. Apparently the universe wanted to make sure Jiran understood the assignment. Jiran grits his teeth because the truck can handle regular zombies all day, but crawlers are a whole different weight class of problem. So he makes the call right there, telling Xiaoxi to take the wheel while he goes outside to deal with them personally, and would you really expect anything less from this lunatic? This fool throws open the door of a moving truck and steps out into the moonlit night like he's exiting a limo at a red carpet event for people with zero self-preservation. Pang gets deployed as a stealth unit, told to follow from behind and wait for the right moment because apparently this dog has tactical awareness now and the crawlers have some intelligence. Jiran launches himself onto the roof of the truck against the full moon, and the silhouette is honestly kind of raw, sword in hand, coat flying, not a single thought about retreating. He lands on top and immediately starts carving through crawlers like he's speedrunning a boss rush, blade connecting with mutant flesh on every side. He shouts for Xiaoxi to go full speed and never stop while he holds the roof like some kind of apocalyptic hood ornament with a sword. His enlightenment shield activates and wraps his body in crackling blue energy with a 15-minute timer, which means he has exactly that long to finish this or things get ugly fast. Crawlers try flanking from both sides at once and Jiran actually smirks, taunting them about learning coordinated attacks while his sword crackles with shield energy at his hip. He drives his blade straight through one of them while telling it that it picked the absolute worst target tonight, and the blue energy tearing through the crawler's body makes this panel look like a concert poster for violence. But the last crawler drops from above, going for the back of his neck, because these things are smarter than they look, and this one waited for an opening. It's right behind him, jaws wide, red eyes burning, and for half a heartbeat, it actually looks like it might land the hit. But Jiran spins and carves clean through it without even flinching, telling the crawler it's nothing but trash if it thinks a sneak attack is going to work on him. And the coldest line delivery of this entire series is brought to you by a man standing on a moving truck covered in monster blood under a full moon. The last crawler gets in his face, and this moron screams right back at it like volume is a valid combat strategy. He cracks his fist straight into its skull and tells this thing it should have waited until it evolved before picking a fight, because right now it's embarrassing itself. One swing of the blade and the crawler gets separated into sections it never consented to. The truck fight isn't the only show tonight because that solo fighter from earlier is still going, staring down two crawlers and telling them they're pathetic compared to actual human combat technique. This kid raises his sword overhead and announces it's his turn to attack like they've been taking turns in a polite little war. Except the overhead swing was bait the whole time and the smirk behind those eyes says he's been playing them since the first exchange. The real strike connects and the system rings up 32 energy core crystals for a matured crawler like a cashier scanning groceries at the deli counter of death. The second one gets launched across the pavement with zero return policy. Meanwhile, Jiran catches his breath and admits that crawler would have been a real problem if it didn't retreat, but thankfully the shield tanked 10% of the damage, so his organs are still in the right places. And his gene strengthening talent fires up automatically, stitching torn tissue back together with blue particles like his body runs on a subscription healing service. Back with Zhen Yu, this kid is checking the corpse behind him like he's making absolutely sure it stayed dead, which is exactly when the universe decides to teach him about spatial awareness because a crawler drops on him from nowhere like an express delivery of violence. They're locked in the most disgusting wrestling match imaginable, and Zhen Yu is losing the strength check by a wide margin, but this lunatic still has the nerve to tell the crawler it should have fled when it had the chance, which is insane trash talk for someone currently getting manhandled. And then a white missile of fur and fury descends from the sky with claws out and murder on its mind. Pang sinks his fangs into that crawler like it owed him money while Jiran watches from behind with the energy of a proud parent at a talent show for bloodshed. The system confirms another matured crawler eliminated and rings up another 32 crystals because this dog is literally printing currency at this point. Jiren scratches Pang's head and tells him the timing was perfect, and honestly this dog has more tactical intelligence than half the humans left alive on this planet. Xiaoxi pops out of the truck cabin, looking terrified and adorable in equal measure, yelling at the boss to get back inside immediately, because 50 meters ahead there's an entire army of large zombies forming a wall across the highway, and the truck is not slowing down with Jiran and Pang still standing on the roof like hood ornaments with feelings. Xiaoxi is screaming that the speed physically cannot decrease, and the raw panic in her voice suggests the brake pedal became decorative about 5 minutes ago. The truck plows through the zombie blockade like a bowling ball through very meaty pins, and the sound alone would make a butcher reconsider his career. Jiran's fingers dig into the frame with a grip that says his skeleton is the only seatbelt available. He throws himself through the cab door and barks at Xiaoxi to move because apparently her driving was too conservative for his taste, and that threshold is apparently somewhere past vehicular homicide. The truck tears along a coastal bridge with ocean on one side and zombie hordes on the other, and somehow neither option feels like the safe direction to crash. Xiaoxi screams that they're about to slam into something solid, and her prediction record tonight is batting 1,000. The impact rattles everyone inside the cab like loose change in a washing machine, and Xiaoxi looks like her soul briefly left her body on that one. From above the truck is just a smoking metal comet carving through a coastal road of undead, and it would almost be cinematic if you ignore the fact that the engine sounds like it's crying. A large zombie decides to body check the truck directly, and the impact sends sparks flying off the reinforced plating like the vehicle just got punched by something that bench presses cars. Xiaoxi gently suggests the truck might be about to explode, and Jiran's response is a flat shut up while the system deposits 36 crystals from the large zombie they just steamrolled, so at least the finances are thriving. But that close-up on his eyes tells a completely different story because this idiot absolutely knows the truck is dying, and he's already calculating his next move. The system flashes a 40-second countdown until the truck detonates, and Jiran, with the survival logic of a man speedrunning his own lifespan, decides that's more than enough time. The truck erupts in a fireball that wipes out every zombie in the blast radius and turns the highway into a barbecue pit that nobody RSVP'd to. Xiaoxi begs to stop and throw up while Jiran refuses without blinking and then mutters Zhao Shiwei's name because the whole reason they're here hasn't been resolved yet. Keep that name in your head. Jiran screams that they're coming, and the wide shot of the burning wreckage behind them with the city silhouette ahead is genuinely raw. And there's the destination. A massive dome-shaped building fortified like a bunker, surrounded by hundreds of regular zombies pressing against the walls like the world's worst concert crowd. Jiran scoops up Pang and announces that on the count of 1, everybody jumps because apparently arriving by controlled stop was never on the agenda. Xiaoxi braces at the open door with Pang as the countdown hits 3, then 2. Her twin tails catching the wind and those legs catching my attention even in a life or death moment because I have zero discipline. They bail out mid-explosion and the truck behind them becomes a rolling ball of fire and shrapnel that takes out the zombie perimeter like a breaching charge made of insurance nightmares. Xiaoxi screams from the dirt that she is never riding in his vehicle again, and Pang barks in agreement because even the dog thinks this man drives like a war crime. Jiran shouts at her to stop whining and run while Xiaoxi gawks at the burning wreckage ahead and asks if they're really going through that, which is a fair question with an unfair answer. He snaps back asking what the alternative is, waiting politely for the zombie horde to arrive and shake their hands, and the three of them charge toward the building with fire at their backs looking like the most dysfunctional action squad in history. The system interface blooms around Jiran as he grips his sword, and I need to mention that this panel makes him look unreasonably good for a man who is just ejected from an exploding truck. But then the system drops a bombshell warning about a large lizard inside with combat ability equivalent to a rank 2 awakener, and Jiran's expression collapses faster than his vehicle's structural integrity. Because what's waiting for them in the dark is a lizard the size of a small house with glowing red eyes and an energy signature that makes every crawler they fought tonight look like a warm-up round. The lizard lunges with its jaws wide open, and Jiran shoves Xiaoxi clear just in time because that mouth was about to erase her from the story. Xiaoxi hits the ground screaming for the boss while Pang growls at the thing, and the size difference between our little team and this prehistoric nightmare is genuinely unfair. And then this beautiful, stupid, incredible dog charges straight at the lizard despite Xiaoxi begging him not to because Pang apparently thinks being brave and being suicidal are the same thing. Xiaoxi's face crumbles as she watches Pang throw himself at something that could swallow him in one bite, and her scream of his name is the kind of sound that actually hurts to listen to. She whispers, asking if they're all gonna die here, and honestly, looking at this rank 2 equivalent lizard growling over them, the question feels completely justified. But Jiran comes screaming back into the frame wrapped in crackling blue energy and starts feeding the lizard explosions directly to its face, like room service at a hotel run by a psychopath. Xiaoxi's eyes light up because her boss survived and he's wielding what looks like a heavy cannon wrapped in that blue shield energy, telling the lizard to stop eating random things it finds on the ground. He unloads round after round into the thing's body, screaming that not everything is edible, and the lizard is discovering this nutritional fact, but the system warns him to finish it quickly because the lizard is already regenerating. Which means this thing has a health regen passive and the difficulty just spiked from hard to borderline unfair. So he switches to the blade. Surrounded by so much blue energy, he looks like a walking thunderstorm that decided violence was a personality trait. He dives at the lizard's wounded side, declaring he'll end this while the damage is still fresh because waiting means fighting a fully healed boss, but the lizard's tongue whips around and catches him midair, like a frog snagging a particularly aggressive fly, and the impact sends him crashing through rock. Even Jiran is stunned at the speed because one frame he had the advantage, and the next he's dodging for his life, wondering how something that big moves that fast. His sternum cracks on impact and he drops to a knee surrounded by blue shield energy that is the only thing standing between him and a coffin fitting right now. The system highlights the lizard's weak points at its eyes and spine, and Jiran knows he can't survive another exchange, so he screams at Xiaoxi to blind it with her corpse fog because it's team combo time or game over. And she steps up without a single second of hesitation, unleashing a wave of toxic green corpse fog that she's been holding in reserve, and honestly there's something genuinely attractive about a woman who weaponizes biohazards on command. The fog engulfs the lizard's face and starts dissolving its eyes like acid on contact, which is the most disgusting support move I've ever seen, and also the most effective. The lizard roars blind and furious, while Jiran launches himself from above like a guided missile that already locked its target on the exposed spine. That close-up of his face split by the blade's edge with blood on his cheek and absolute zero in his eyes might be the coldest frame this manhwa has drawn so far. He descends with everything he has left wrapped in a column of blue energy, and tells this prehistoric reject to prepare to die. The blade meets the lizard's spine and the collision shakes the entire building as this thing realizes it just became the second strongest creature in the room. Xiaoxi watches from below, screaming for her boss as the lizard thrashes wildly trying to shake the tiny human who's carving his name into its nervous system. Jiran drives the sword down with both hands and every remaining drop of energy in his body and tells this overgrown gecko to go ahead and die already. The lizard's red eye goes wide with what might actually be shock because the thing lodged in its spine is not coming out and neither is its heartbeat. The biggest threat they've encountered in this entire apocalypse collapses in a heap of scales and steam like a server that just got permanently disconnected. Jiran lets out a weak laugh with his knuckles still white on the hilt because his body is completely wrecked, but his mind knows he just soloed a rank 2 boss. He stands there, blood on his lip, sword planted at his side, steam curling around him, and breathes out that it's finally over. Is Jiran the most reckless protagonist in all of Manhwa, or is that just how winners operate? Xiaoxi sprints over asking if he's okay, and he waves her off, saying he's fine, which is a blatant lie, but the cool guy handbook requires it, so she pretends to believe him. His gene strengthening kicks in with that blue healing glow again, and he immediately pivots back to the mission, telling Xiaoxi to search the area for Zhao Xiyue because they didn't blow up a truck and fight a dinosaur just to sightsee. But instead of searching, this girl whips out her phone to take a selfie next to the dead lizard, talking about how she's going to post this on the public channel and brag for an entire year, and Jiran's patience flatlines on the spot. She finally scampers off to actually look while Jiran sighs deep enough to age 5 years and pulls up his system interface because someone around here has to have their priorities straight. And the loot from that lizard hits like a raid boss pinata: 60 energy crystals with talent boost, mutant fertilizer, evolved blood, tough leather, and sharp claws, turning every broken bone tonight into a long-term investment that absolutely paid out. Xiaoxi is out here shouting for Zhao Xiyue like she's calling roll at a zombie academy, even adding that the boss likes her, which is information nobody asked for in the middle of an apocalypse. But Jiran's mind goes somewhere dark real fast, whispering to himself that she might already be dead and refusing to believe his own thought the second it leaves his mouth. Xiaoxi screams for him to come look, and the way this rubble-filled disaster zone stretches out around them makes you realize Xiyue has been surviving in an actual war zone. They spot a window blocked by debris, and Xiaoxi confirms this is where Xiyue would be hiding. So naturally this fool has to move an entire concrete slab to get inside. And this maniac just brute forces the rubble aside like a forklift with anger issues while Xiaoxi yelps behind him as if she's never seen a man lift before. They find her. They actually find Zhao Xiyue, but she's collapsed on the ground and Xiaoxi's face drops because this girl is infected. Before Jiran can even process the bad news, Xiaoxi is already channeling that green healing energy into Xiyue's body while he watches like, wait, since when could you do that on command? The system confirms the virus has been in her blood for a while, but she can be saved, it's just gonna take time. Jiran tells Xiaoxi to heal in peace while he stands guard because someone has to be the adult here, and the system immediately pings him with the most beautiful sentence in any language. This room has weapons and ammunition. This idiot throws open the door with the energy of a kid on Christmas morning who just heard Santa was packing military hardware. And waiting behind it is a full armored vehicle surrounded by weapon crates, which means Zhao Xiyue was sitting on a personal armory this entire time. The medicine she gave him before came from right here. This girl was running solo supply missions through monster territory, and Jiran finally understands why she was half dead. He absorbs the whole stockpile into his inventory, and the loot readout is disgusting. 100 rifles, 100,000 rounds of ammo, 6 rocket launchers, and 238 rockets. This man just became a one-person military-industrial complex. But those eyes just went sharp because something below just triggered every survival instinct in his body. Back with Xiaoxi, she freezes mid-heal because she hears something too, and the look on her face says it's nothing friendly. Jiran grabs one of his fresh new toys and bolts toward the noise, telling the girls to stay put because whatever's making that sound needs to meet the barrel of a gun before it meets them. He peeks over a ledge and his brain stutters because down below, glowing in the dark like a reward screen from heaven, he drops down to it immediately, complaining that his hidden hint ability didn't even ping for this thing, which means the system basically fell asleep on the job. The chest is sitting right there, red and gold and sparkling, and his one good eye is already calculating what legendary drop might be waiting inside, and then a fist the size of a sedan punches through the ground like the earth itself decided to throw hands. Something massive is crawling out of the floor, and Jiran is standing at the end of a narrow corridor watching his loot run turn into a boss encounter in real time. Good thing he just collected 6 rocket launchers because he immediately puts one to work, sending a warhead directly at the creature's face right next to that beautiful gold chest. The smoke hasn't even cleared, and Jiran already knows that wasn't enough, muttering for himself to hurry because whatever just ate that rocket is not the type to stay down. And there it is, a massive armored head with glowing red eyes that are staring through the smoke like the explosion was a mild inconvenience. Jiran immediately shifts to plan B, screaming at Xiaoxi to open the iron door and get the armored vehicle running because fighting is officially off the table. Xiaoxi comes running through the rubble shouting that Xiyue's recovery isn't finished yet, which is an incredibly valid concern that Jiran has zero time to address, because this absolute mountain of muscle is already on him and the rocket launcher is bouncing off its chest like party favors. Jiran is screaming at them to grab Xiyue and go while he buys time against something that should not exist in a fair game. No damage, not a scratch, not a dent. The rocket that vaporized lesser zombies last episode did literally nothing, and the horror of that realization is hitting Jiran at terminal velocity. The system helpfully identifies this nightmare as a mutant triple L class tank zombie with super strength, speed, damage resistance, and oh by the way, sonic attacks. Is this still a zombie or did someone import a raid boss from a different franchise? Its eyes flare with green energy as it charges that sonic ability, and whatever sound this thing is about to produce, it was not designed for anyone's survival. Xiaoxi locks it down with her control ability and shouts for Jiran to attack now. He pulls that blue energy blade and tells her to go drive the vehicle vehicle because he's about to find out if his sword works where rockets failed. He launches himself at the tank zombie from above like a guided missile that genuinely believes in the power of positive stabbing. His full power slash connects and the blade screams against armored flesh, and Jiran immediately knows something is very wrong. It didn't work. His strongest attack, the same one that carved through a rank 2 lizard's spine, bounced off this thing like a butter knife on a tank hull. This is genuinely the worst matchup in this entire manhwa. The zombie turns its attention to the armored vehicle and delivers a sonic blast straight into the metal, while Xiaoxi screams for Jiran to get on because they are leaving right now. Jiran dives toward the vehicle, cursing everything about this situation because retreating was supposed to be the backup plan, not the only plan. Pang pops up with that fluffy little face and places his paw on Jiran's hand like, buddy, I'm here too, which is adorable, but this dog weighs less than one of that zombie's fingers. The tank zombie chases the armored vehicle through the building, throwing sonic blasts that are literally shaking the structure apart around them like the world's angriest noise complaint. The vehicle smashes through a wall in a burst of blue energy and concrete because when the door is blocked, Jiran makes his own exit. Inside the vehicle, Jiran is white-knuckling the steering wheel while Xiaoxi braces in the back with an unconscious Xiyue, because this ride just became the most aggressive ambulance in zombie apocalypse history. They blast through the building and the zombie is right behind them, reaching for the vehicle like it personally insulted its bloodline. That close-up of the zombie's bloodshot eyes with pure rage leaking out of every pore tells you everything you need to know. It catches up to the vehicle and brings both fists down with enough force to crater the roof like a soda can at a frat party. The impact sends the vehicle crashing through the ground itself, and Jiran barely manages a single word because the floor just stopped existing. This moron is behind the wheel of a plummeting armored vehicle, wondering why his hidden notification system didn't warn him about the tank zombie, and screaming that they're actually doomed this time. I respect the honesty. The vehicle is in complete freefall, and a single thought crosses his mind that maybe, just maybe, the system wanted him to go down here. The vehicle crashes through into a massive underground space, and the impact sends dust everywhere as Jiran processes that the system literally guided him into the basement of hell. His system interface floods with notifications all at once, and his expression shifts from panic to absolute dread because whatever data just loaded is worse than falling. They've landed in a monster breeding nest. The system is tagging contacts everywhere: weepers, creepers, giant zombies, tanks. Xiaoxi immediately starts dumping gasoline out of a canister, asking if they're really using all of it, and the answer should be obvious because you don't half commit to arson. She's sobbing about how many bow and arrow trades it took to get that fuel, while Jiran lays out the stakes. If these monsters hatch, Tianyang City is finished. Every drop of gasoline they burn now is saving thousands of lives later, and he's not taking debate on this. Jiran's instincts flare and his eyes lock onto something moving, because of course the nest isn't just going to let them torch it in peace. The tank zombie dropped down after them, and it got here way too fast. Jiran shouts to get the vehicle ready because their window for a clean escape just slams shut. It lands in the nest with an impact that shakes the entire underground chamber and makes every monster egg around it tremble. Is this thing trying to help them hatch faster? Xiaoxi cranks the wheel, screaming that she is never going on a field trip with Jiran again because every outing with this man turns into a near-death speedrun. The tank zombie thunders after them through the nest, and Jiran is screaming to dodge using S movements or they're going to become a permanent part of the floor. The zombie's fist slams into the nest floor, and the impact tears through organic matter and unhatched eggs alike, proving that at least this thing's collateral damage works in their favor. Jiran grabs a detonator with the kind of calm that only appears when a man has already accepted what he's about to do is incredibly stupid. This absolute lunatic climbs onto the tank zombie's body and slaps the explosive device directly onto its chest, like he's delivering a package that requires a signature and a funeral. He pulls out the rocket launcher point blank with the most unhinged grin on his face because if the sword didn't work and the first rocket didn't work, then maybe the answer is more rockets at closer range. The gasoline ignites and the entire nest goes up like a crematorium made of nightmares, fire consuming every wall, every egg, every organic surface in a cascading inferno. But the tank zombie charges straight through the fire like it was born in a volcano, completely engulfed in flames and somehow angrier than before. Would you bet against this thing at this point? Because I would not. Jiran pops out of the vehicle roof with another rocket launcher because this man has 6 of them and he intends to use every single one as a personal love letter to this unkillable freak. The fire finally starts doing what rockets couldn't. The tank zombie is burning from the inside out, the gasoline-fueled inferno melting through its defenses while Jiran breathes out that was way too close. Its body starts cracking apart in the flames, and the sound of armored flesh splitting open might be the most satisfying thing Jiran has heard all night. The system confirms they burned 11% of Tianyang City's monster breeding nest and rewards a rank 2 treasure chest. 11%. They torched this entire area and it was only 11%. The scale of what they just stumbled into is genuinely terrifying. They peel out in the vehicle and immediately something new blocks their path because this underground nightmare apparently has layers like the worst onion ever grown. Jiran presses his hand against the window and mutters those 2 words nobody wants to hear mid-escape. Don't tell me. A brand new type of monster. The system tags it as a mutant double venom breeder that spits extremely corrosive acid, and the creature looks like someone gave a zombie a biology degree and a grudge. It fires a stream of green venom directly at the armored vehicle, and the acid hits the hull like a chemistry experiment that hates them personally. The acid is eating through military-grade armor like it's made of paper, and Xiaoxi screams for Jiran to look ahead because the windshield is about to become a suggestion rather than a barrier. 3 of them. 3 venom breeders lined up like a firing squad, all spraying acid at the vehicle simultaneously, and Ji-ran's armored ride is dissolving in real time. Xiaoxi loses it completely, and Ji-ran shoves her out of the driver's seat, screaming that if she stops moving, they're dead, and he's taking over because this escape needs someone whose hands aren't shaking. He grips the melting steering wheel and grits out that the vehicle won't hold together much longer, which means whatever exit exists in this hellhole needs to show up in the next 30 seconds or they're walking through acid rain. He floors it toward a gap in the tunnel, screaming to leave this insane place, and the vehicle rockets through the opening, trailing smoke and melting metal because Ji-ran refuses to let an underground monster maternity ward be where his story ends. The armored vehicle tears across the wasteland at sunset, trailing smoke and scorch marks from the nightmare they just crawled out of. And both of these traumatized fools are sobbing in unison, screaming that they finally escaped and they are never going back to that place even if someone held a gun to their heads, because the road ahead is not empty. A whole welcome party of red-eyed zombies is swarming the path like they got a group notification that dinner just arrived. And one of the big ones is already on top of the vehicle, hammering the roof like it's trying to open a can of survivors. Ji-ran spots even more pouring in from the side and realizes if this horde reaches Tianyang City, the entire settlement is finished, so they need to reroute immediately. He floors it and the vehicle rockets forward like a battering ram that's personally offended by everything in its path. Ji-ran's white-knuckling the wheel while Xiaoxi looks like her soul already left her body and is filing a complaint from the afterlife. Now here's a fresh headache. Some kind of massive lizard-type mutant comes into view, because clearly the regular zombies weren't enough seasoning for this trip. Ji-ran barks at Xiaoxi to take the wheel because these zombies need a more personal touch, specifically from the barrel of every gun he owns. Except things go sideways immediately because zombies are ripping through the vehicle walls and Xiaoxi is shrieking that they're breaking in. A blade slashes through one of the intruders and Ji-ran curses under his breath because their armor is compromised and the situation just went from bad to catastrophic. And then Shiwei, the girl who is supposed to be unconscious and half dead, launches herself into the fight, and Ji-ran's brain short-circuits because this infected woman just woke up swinging. Xiaoxi immediately screams that Shiwei's virus isn't fully cleared, and if she doesn't get treated soon, she's going to turn into the very thing they're fighting. Ji-ran snatches his Tang sword and tells Xiaoxi to focus on treating Shiwei while he handles every single zombie personally, which is either heroic or suicidal depending on your optimism levels. Xiaoxi grabs Shiwei without hesitation because when the boss says go, you go. This fool climbs out with an entire assault rifle screaming at the undead to eat lead like he's running a complimentary bullet buffet, and he does not hold back. Muzzle flash is painting the sunset a whole new color as he unloads clip after clip into the horde. The system is practically having a seizure, trying to keep up with the loot drops. Energy core crystals stacking, clean cloth raining in, and his rank 2 counter climbs to 756 out of 1200. But bullets aren't cutting it for the big ones, so naturally this maniac breaks out another rocket launcher because why use one weapon when you can escalate to war crimes? The rocket connects and an entire section of the zombie horde gets vaporized in a fireball that could probably be seen from Tianyang City. The blast catches one of the bigger zombies square in the chest and peels its armor off like wrapping paper on Christmas morning. Ji-ran is screaming for them to come get some while his system counter rockets to 1032 out of 1200. This absolute grinder is farming his rank up mid-combat. But then the horned tank zombie from before comes bulldozing through the smoke because of course that thing survived. At this point I'm convinced it's contractually obligated to ruin every scene. Ji-ran spots a bridge up ahead and yells for Xiaoxi to floor it toward the crossing because he just had the most unhinged idea of the night. The tank zombie is gaining on them like a freight train that skipped leg day exactly 0 times, and Ji-ran can hear the bridge calling his name. He shoulders the rocket launcher with the cockiest grin you've ever seen and mutters that there's no way this bridge won't stop it. Would you bet your life on a bridge? Ji-ran just did. The rocket slams into the bridge foundation and the impact shakes the entire structure down to its bones. The bridge detonates behind them in a cascade of concrete and fire with the tank zombie standing right in the blast zone like the universe's dumbest pedestrian. Ji-ran is cackling like a villain, telling that thing to go ahead and die. And honestly, after 17 episodes of fighting this unkillable nightmare, he's earned this moment. The entire bridge collapses in a wall of dust and debris, cutting off the zombie's pursuit completely. But wait, you hear that? Through the rubble and the dust, the tank zombie is still standing there screaming bloody murder because apparently structural engineering is not enough to kill this abomination. It dropped into the river below the wrecked bridge and is clawing its way through the water, still coming, still relentless. It bursts through the water with its arms spread wide like some unholy baptism, and honestly this might be the most terrifying thing I've witnessed in this entire series. That bridge barely slowed it down, but the bridge bought them enough time because the armored vehicle screeches into Tianyang City, battered, melting, and somehow still rolling. Meanwhile in the city, a woman with a blade strapped to her back is barking orders about moving faster before dark, and the dude beside her looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Keep your eye on these two. Turns out there's internal drama brewing. Some guy named Chi Hongda has been hoarding supplies and recruiting people, basically building his own little kingdom and ignoring orders from anyone except Ji-ran himself. The man sighs and says to let Chi Hongda do whatever he wants because as long as he stays in the team, he's still a member, which is either incredibly diplomatic or incredibly naive. And that's when everyone hears it. The armored vehicle comes thundering around the corner, and this dude's face goes blank trying to process what he's looking at. The entire street loses their collective minds because someone just rolled up in a military armored vehicle during the apocalypse like they're doing grocery delivery for the end times, and someone recognizes him immediately. Night falls and Ji-ran carries Siwei inside princess style, which is the kind of moment that would normally make me jealous, except she's still infected, so the romance is slightly dampened by the biological hazard. Xiaoxi stumbles in behind them completely drained, mumbling about being tired, with Pang dragging his fluffy body next to her looking equally finished. These two share one brain cell and it's currently offline. She doesn't even make it to a bed. This girl faceplants right there and passes out cold while Pang uses her as a pillow because loyalty means sleeping on your friend's unconscious body, apparently. Jiran looks down at her with the warmest smile we've seen from him yet and says, "Thanks for today, Xiaoxi, well done." And he actually calls her by name. Xiaoxi's eyes snap open like she just got hit with a defibrillator because did this man just use her actual name for the first time? She launches at him sobbing that she waited so long for this moment and the boss finally called her by name, which is the most wholesome breakdown I've seen in a zombie apocalypse. Jiran pats her head and says they're family from now on, then tells her to rest and call him when Yue wakes up. This man went from cold loner to found family protagonist in one head pat. Once everyone's asleep, this fool parks himself on the couch and pulls up his system interface because apparently sleep is for people who don't have loot to open. He cracks open that rank 2 treasure chest from the breeding nest and the hall is obscene. 30 tents, 30 sleeping bags, night vision devices, 100 times zoom telescope, a talent crystal, an energy armor blueprint, and advanced pet food. This single chest just outfitted an entire survivor camp. But the 3 items that matter are the talent crystal that gives +1 to all talents, the energy armor that passively blocks 25% of damage, and advanced pet rations that accelerate Pang's growth. Every single one of these is a game changer. He snaps the talent crystal without hesitation, and the system confirms he's unlocked gene and energy evolution direction with a +1 across the board. This idiot just patched himself mid-season like a developer updating a broken character. His full talent tree lights up and it is disgusting. Civet reflex boosting dodge and speed by 150%, richest party adding 60 to resource output, +2 brand new evolution branches. The man's build is becoming genuinely unfair. He eyes the new focus strike talent that lets him shoot energy beams from his hands and decides since he fights up close with his Tang sword, he should max out his damage reduction and offense. Smart thinking from this normally reckless buffoon. He also grabs the Fury talent, which temporarily maxes all his stats with 30% less damage taken, and taps the upgrade button because restraint is a concept Jiran has never met. Both talents upgrade simultaneously and raw energy starts crackling through his entire body, like his nervous system just got rewired by lightning. And then his eyes change. One pupil burns red, the other blazes blue, and he looks like a protagonist who just crossed into a completely different power tier. The artist went unreasonably hard on this panel. He stares at his own fist, completely bewildered because his body feels like it's simultaneously on fire and frozen solid, which is either the coolest upgrade side effect or a medical emergency. A small flame flickers to life on the back of his hand, half red, half blue, and Jiran mutters, asking if this is focus strike. Bro can literally generate fire from his palm now. The guns were already overkill and he just added magic to the mix. Morning hits and sunlight pours over the house looking so peaceful you'd almost forget there's an unkillable horned zombie wading through a river trying to reach this city. Jiran passed out on the floor after his late night power-up session, sleeping like a man who didn't just rewrite his genetic code on a couch at 2 in the morning. Something wakes him up though. His nose twitches, catching a scent that has absolutely no business existing in the apocalypse. He sits up genuinely confused, asking where this meat smell is coming from, because the last time someone cooked actual food in this timeline was probably before civilization collapsed. And standing right there with a plate of food is Yue, fully recovered, looking like she just walked off a fashion shoot instead of a near-death infection. Xiaoxi is drooling next to her, calling her a divine beauty who's even prettier in person, and honestly, she's not wrong. This woman is an extinction-level threat to my focus. Yue thanks Jiran for saving her and pledges her entire life to him, which this dense fool immediately waves off, saying they're even because of the medicine she gave him before. Brother, a gorgeous woman just swore a life debt and you said no thanks, we're square? And Xiaoxi is watching this exchange with the most jealous pair of eyes I have ever seen on an animated face. The hostility radiating from this girl could curdle milk. She slaps on sunglasses like she's armoring up emotionally and barks at them to stop flirting because the potato is getting cold. The way she said potato sounded like a personal insult. Jiran looks down at the plate absolutely glowing and asks if this is potato because it smells like meat. And Jiwei made this? This man has hearts in his eyes over a cooked tuber and I can't even blame him. Yue smiles and offers to cook for him every single day, which is the apocalypse equivalent of a marriage proposal, and she delivered it with the kind of warmth that could melt steel. I would personally accept this offer on my knees. Xiaoxi shatters the moment by screaming that a giant zombie appeared outside the window, and Jiran immediately switches from lovesick puppy to combat mode. He whips around demanding to know where it is because his brain just went from breakfast to battlefield in 0.2 seconds. But when he turns around, there's no zombie. There never was a zombie, because while his back was turned, Xiaoxi is already swiping at the food plate and Yue is standing there startled by the whole commotion. This little gremlin faked an emergency to steal breakfast. Jiran grabs his Tang sword purely out of reflex, which means this fool almost went to war over a fake zombie sighting during breakfast. The paranoia from last night is still cooking. He catches Xiaoxi mid-theft and snatches the food back, declaring that Yue's first home-cooked meal belongs to him and negotiation is not an option. This man pulled rank over a potato. Xiaoxi goes fully airborne, trying to intercept the food, screaming she's eating it today no matter what, and the energy she's putting into this breakfast heist rivals anything she showed against actual zombies. Jiran catches the potato on a fork mid-air like he's performing surgery while Xiaoxi fumes behind him because this is the most competitive these two have ever been, and the stakes are literally a vegetable. Yue covers her mouth laughing and says she'll just make another plate, which is the most reasonable sentence anyone has spoken in the last 5 minutes, and she's standing there looking gorgeous while doing it because the apocalypse can't dim that woman. But while they're all distracted, Pang, the fluffy little traitor, launches himself through the air and snatches the contested potato in his mouth like a heat-seeking missile programmed to ruin everyone's day equally. Xiaoxi screams that even Pang has betrayed her, calling him a traitor as the dog bolts out the door with breakfast. And this is genuinely the funniest thing that's happened since the world ended. But this fool never sleeps when there's loot to process, because while flipping through his treasure chest rewards he finds 2 skills that just solved a problem he didn't even announce yet. Steel collection tech that lets him rip metal straight from buildings, and a mechanical maintenance skill book that auto-teaches him how to repair and upgrade vehicles, and the system just casually confirms he's absorbed all of it like downloading a firmware update for his brain. But here's what caught his attention, because this skill book came with a diary entry dated August 2012, and the story inside is horrifying. Virus spread, everyone turned, military deployed, 24-hour shoot-on-sight curfew across the entire infected city. By September, the zombies weren't even the real problem anymore. Mutant insects and plants started crawling out of the ground, reviving after being killed, and the entire main army got wiped out like they brought water guns to a nuclear war. October 12th, a soldier checked himself out permanently, and whoever wrote this diary decided they'd had enough of rotting in a bunker. 3 armed mechs in the armory. The plan was to steal them and fight their way to freedom. They never made it. November 7th, mutant insects breached the bunker before anyone could reach the mechs, and the last entry in this diary is just someone screaming that it's the end of the world. Cheerful stuff. But Jiran's eyes aren't filled with grief, they're filled with greed, because the only thing he took away from this tragedy is that there's a bunker out there with armed mechas sitting in it waiting to be claimed. First things first though, their armored vehicle took an absolute beating getting them here, and this thing needs repairs before it goes anywhere near a mech-filled bunker, surrounded by mutant nightmares. And Xiaoxi is already on board, grinning ear to ear about having Jiran as her personal mechanic, declaring that the open road is their home now and every zombie out there should start running. Meanwhile, Pang has fully shifted into beast mode, and let me tell you, this fluffy marshmallow that was stealing potatoes 5 minutes ago is now a building-sized wolf roaring hard enough to shake the foundations of everything standing. Jiran spots the last cluster of zombies in the city from a rooftop, and this maniac's only thought is that they should be enough experience points to push him over the edge for a level up. He walks toward them like a man with a reservation at a restaurant that serves violence. And then this absolute lunatic launches himself off the building like gravity is a suggestion he's choosing to decline. Blue energy erupts around him mid-fall as he pulls off a full 360 blade tornado that would make every action game protagonist file for early retirement. The whole squad opens up at once, and every round of ammunition, every energy blast, every ounce of firepower they've got is being dumped onto these undead like they owe the team money. Xiaoxi threw the sunglasses back on and declared herself the Zombie Terminator, which is not a title she earned through any kind of official process, but I respect the confidence. Entire city blocks are just evaporating. Explosions stacking on top of explosions like they're farming a combo meter nobody can see. Pang is out here plowing through zombie hordes at highway speeds, turning bodies into ragdolls with every swipe of those massive paws, and the city streets are basically his personal bowling alley. Now here's where Jiran decides to field test the focus strike he picked up last night. Energy spirals into his palm like a miniature sun being born, and he tells this power not to let him down. The recoil slams him into a concrete wall, and he's embedded in rubble, muttering that maybe this particular skill should stay in his back pocket as a trump card only, because his own attack just bullied him. No time to sulk though, because this moron immediately switches gears and activates his steel collection skill, reaching out as blue energy starts pulling materials straight from the surrounding buildings. The system starts printing receipts and the haul is disgusting. 723 energy crystals, over 1,000 clean cloths, 1,100 units of mutant fertilizer, and just like that the system pops the question because he's sitting at 1,755 out of 1,200 required energy crystals. Level up conditions met. Would you like to ascend? Would you like to become even more unfair? He smashes yes without a shred of hesitation, and the system rewards him with 4 talent points, promoting him to novice rank 3 with the next milestone set at 6,000 crystals. This man just prestige while standing in a pile of zombie parts. But wait, because the dual-colored flame on his hand is burning brighter than before, and he realizes with genuine shock that even his focus strike got buffed by the level up. He dumps all 4 talent points straight into Civet Reflex, and the system confirms he's now mastered it completely. Dodge and jump boosted by 150%. Resource collection up 60%. His character sheet is starting to look like a cheat engine screenshot. And the immediate proof of how broken this is, he launches off a rooftop and clears an entire city block in a single bound, cracking the concrete where he landed, because his legs now have more spring than a kangaroo on pre-workout. Xiaoxi's jaw is on the floor because from her perspective this idiot just vanished and reappeared like a budget Goku, and she's screaming about teleportation while Jiran stands there with crossed arms looking unreasonably smug. He corrects her that it's actually just his dodge talent, but then the mood dips because even after all that carnage his level up progress barely moved. The experience curve from rank 3 onward is steep enough to give a mountain climber anxiety, and Xiaoxi confirms the bad news. Every zombie and creeper in the area seems to have gone into hiding, which means there's nothing left in Tianyang City to farm for experience, and this idiot has literally cleaned himself out of content. But Jiran isn't buying it because he knows some of these creepers have developed actual intelligence, and if they're hiding instead of attacking, that makes them exponentially more dangerous for the entire city. So he activates his Analyze Eye, and the upgraded range after his level up lets him scan buildings across the entire district. Within seconds he locks onto their location and grins because now the hunt has a target. Hold on, who is that? A woman shows up calling for someone named Zhang Chen, saying she's leveled up and become exceptionally strong so she won't be a burden anymore, and she's wearing a white tank top with more confidence than body armor. Jiran gives Xiaoxi the nod of approval, and these two absolute menaces pump their fist, declaring they're about to exterminate every single creeper hiding in Tianyang City like pest control with superpowers. The first nest they find is straight out of a horror film. Spotted creepers clinging to walls, crawling across ceilings, gathered in a dark room that smells like a Geneva Convention violation with a bloody corpse on the floor. Jiran doesn't negotiate. He introduces his fist to the biggest one's face, and the impact craters the wall behind it. The surviving creepers collectively realize they picked the wrong city to hide in because every single one of them looks absolutely terrified. One of the smarter ones with a mask tries to make a break for it, but a rocket closes the distance before its legs can, and that building just stops existing. The explosion swallows the entire structure like the demolition crew showed up 6 months early. Jiran walks out of the smoke wearing an Art of Victory hoodie that has never been more appropriately named, standing on rubble like a man who just conquered a small country before dinner. He spots a creeper trying to flee through a window and calls it out directly. You thought learning to post a lookout was enough to survive? This lunatic announces he's going to herd every last creeper into a kill zone. He calls Xiaoxi through the comm link and tells her to go absolutely feral with the ammunition, no holding back, exterminate everything in one sweep. She snaps a salute through the hologram, and she has never looked more ready to commit organized violence. Meanwhile, the survivor chat rooms are losing their minds. Someone noticed that a 3-person squad has been systematically erasing every zombie in Tianyang City all afternoon. A zombie girl, a flight attendant, and a swordsman with terrifying firepower. The zombie population just got an involuntary downsizing. And here comes the drama, because some clown from the gymnasium camp rolls in announcing they've claimed the entire commercial district and anyone who enters tomorrow gets dealt with. Another player immediately fires back, calling it a beggar camp where people can't even eat. Somebody mocks the threat while bragging about foreign connections, and then Zheng Hao, the actual leader of the gymnasium camp, shows up to apologize on behalf of Qi Hongda, insisting they have no intention of hogging resources. Keep your eye on this camp. Something is about to break. Cut to the gymnasium camp itself, which is literally a basketball court full of survivors standing around in circles and small clusters while the power struggle between factions is about to boil over. Qi Hongda, the muscle-bound troublemaker we heard about, is already rallying people. He argues that with zombie numbers down, this is the perfect window to grab resources, and without using their combat strength to lock down territory, there's no point having a camp at all. But the woman beside Zheng Hao pushes back hard, warning that the zombie reduction is temporary and more will flood the city soon. Their combat ability is weak. Making enemies right now is a speed run to extinction. Qi Hongda doesn't care. He barks that starvation is the real threat, and he's leading people to seal off the commercial area, whether Zheng Hao approves or not. The smaller guy behind him can barely get a word in. Zheng Hao tries to pull the Brotherhood card, asking why his own brother won't follow orders, and Qi Hongda fires back that Zheng Hao is the arbitrary one and their relationship wouldn't be in the toilet if he actually listened for once. Classic apocalypse family therapy, Qi Hongda makes his move. He rallies his faction, announces they're taking the commercial district tomorrow night, and every single one of his guys roars in agreement. This is a mutiny wearing a group project costume. Zheng Hao walks away with only the woman and a handful of loyal people following him, and the gap between the two groups tells you everything about who's actually in charge of this camp now. The woman beside Zheng Hao says what everyone's thinking. Without the zombies to worry about, the human disaster has officially arrived. The most predictable betrayal arc in survival fiction, and somehow these people are still surprised by it. Back at Jiran's base, and can we talk about how this man is living in an actual paradise compound with glowing mutant plants and traditional architecture lit up at night like a 5-star resort in the middle of the apocalypse? Xiaoyue is serving a full dinner spread that would make a Michelin restaurant jealous, and she walks out with the last plate and that choker and fitted top looking like the apocalypse's most dangerous homemaker. I am personally not recovering from this image anytime soon. Xiaoxi is literally vibrating because Xi Yue managed to create an entire multi-course meal from nothing but potatoes, and somehow every dish looks and tastes different. This woman's cooking talent is borderline supernatural. The little gremlin immediately claims every plate as hers and starts inhaling food while Jiran buries his face in his hands because this child has zero table manners, and Ji Yue is standing right there watching his family act feral. Xiaoxi gets emotional between bites, saying Jiran doesn't understand how starving she was in her previous world. She was so hungry she ate tree roots off a mountain, and the way her eyes well up over a potato steak is genuinely heartbreaking. Jiran catches it immediately. Not just the hunger part, but the phrasing. He asks point blank if she was dirt poor even before she arrived in this world, and Jiwei watches the exchange with quiet curiosity. Xiaoxi deflects faster than a politician at a press conference, pivoting to brag about how Shi Yue did a live broadcast while Jiran was out and sold every bow and arrow they had. Foreigners sent gifts. They secured 30 barrels of gasoline. Shi Yue hits a peace sign, and she's never looked more gorgeous doing it. But in her head, Xiaoxi is sweating bullets because she almost just blew her own cover. She's not from another world like Jiran thinks. She's from this world, and she cannot let him find out. Now that is interesting. File that away. But Jiran doesn't press it because he's already moved on to announcing they're heading to the bunker tomorrow. Shi Yue nearly drops her chopsticks, asking if he's serious. He explains that the zombie supply in the city is tapped out, and there's not enough left to push his level any higher. The bunker has mechs, danger, and more importantly, enough enemies to feed his growth. This man treats deadly military installations like a buffet. Before they leave though, Jiran pulls out the premium pet food from his inventory and both girls immediately recoil, because this so-called high-quality nutrition looks exactly like a steaming pile of what you think it looks like. Pang is just sitting there wagging his tail, having no idea what's about to happen to him. Jiran grins at Pang and tells him to trust his master because this is literally the only premium food in the entire world and he should just swallow it in one gulp. The energy of this moment is extremely sketchy. He tosses it and Pang catches it midair, like the obedient good boy he is, completely trusting that his owner would never feed him anything questionable. That trust is about to be severely tested. Pang's eyes snap open and something inside that fluffy body just activated in a way that is clearly not part of any normal digestive process. A cloud of black toxic smoke erupts out of Pang's back end with enough force to reshape the local weather, and Jiran jumps back screaming about how fast it kicked in, while Xiaoxi yells that the gas is literally poisonous. This dog just weaponized a fart. Xiue catches a direct hit from the cloud, and this woman who survived a zombie infection, who pledged her life to Jiran, who just cooked an entire 5-course potato dinner, is now being brought down by dog gas, and I genuinely feel terrible for her. Jiran rushes to her side asking if she's okay and barking at Xiaoxi to heal her immediately, while simultaneously marveling that the premium pet food is so potent that Pang's emissions can injure someone with her strength. Is that a flex or a hazard report? Because the answer to both is yes. Jiran is staring at Pang with an expression that says the premium pet food might have done more than just weaponize a fart, because those fluffy little paws are not fluffy or little anymore, and the claws digging into the stone look like they could fillet a car. Xiue and Xiaoxi both freeze mid-recovery because whatever is happening behind them sounds a lot like a small animal becoming a very large problem. And Xiaoyue in that choker looking shocked is still doing things to me even during a crisis. Pang just graduated from chunky house pet to Howl Moon Wolf King, and this beast is standing there with red eyes and fangs like he's been waiting his entire life for this glow-up. Jiran pulls up the pet status panel and Jiwei leans in to read it with him, which is very domestic for two people standing next to a freshly evolved apex predator, energy beast, Howl Moon Wolf King, adolescence rank 1, favorite food includes zombies and mutant insects, normal dog stuff, and the skill loadout on this thing is obscene. Multiplied battle means he gets bigger, stronger, and faster the moment a fight starts, and Call of the Wild lets him summon 2 wolf cubs as backup. Pang went from liability to raid boss overnight. Xiaoxi practically falls over because Pang is now towering above all of them with his tongue hanging out like the world's most terrifying golden retriever, and Jiran is already calculating that an S-rank battle pet at adolescence is strong enough to guard the entire island solo. He gives Pang the briefing like he's assigning a military contract. Guard the island, no living creatures get in, follow Shiwei's orders. Meanwhile, Xiaoxi has buried herself in Pang's fur, and Shiwei is standing there with that gentle smile looking absolutely devastating in her crop top. And I need to focus. Xiaoxi nuzzles deeper into the fur and mumbles that Pang's bark still sounds the same as when he was small, which is somehow the most wholesome thing that's happened in this entire apocalypse. Jiran throws a fist forward, still rocking the Art of Victory hoodie, and declares they're heading to the bunker right now with Xiaoxi and the wolf behind him looking like the most mismatched squad to ever raid a military installation. Now while Jiran is playing Dungeon Explorer, the rest of humanity is speedrunning society's collapse because over at the commercial district some absolute psychopath is tearing through survivors with his bare hands. And this lovely gentleman's philosophy is that killing other players is the most efficient way to collect resources. Because why loot buildings when you can just loot corpses, right? Truly the most optimized sociopath in the game. The victims finally piece it together and the big guy with the chain necklace starts screaming. They were tricked into searching the area first, and once they collected everything, these goons rolled in to harvest them like crops. But the tank top executioner just shrugs and says blame Zheng Hao, he's just following orders. This man just committed multiple homicides and he's pulling the Nuremberg defense in a sleeveless shirt. The big guy threatens that word will get out and they'll become public enemies, and Tank Top actually pauses like he hadn't considered the Yelp review aspect of mass murder. He sighs and says they aren't actually killers by nature, so he offers a deal. Hand over the storage rings, spread the word that Zheng Hao ordered this whole operation, and he'll let them walk. This fool is framing his own camp leader while robbing people and somehow thinks he's the reasonable one. The big guy can barely believe what he's hearing and his face says everything. You're gonna rob us and you want us to do your propaganda too? The deal is sealed with the smoothest betrayal setup in apocalypse history. Tell everyone it was Zheng Hao's plan, just don't mention who tipped you off. And this tank top snake is grinning because he just weaponized his own victims into a smear campaign against his brother's rival. The survivors hand over their rings like rent money to a landlord who also beat them up, and they're genuinely grateful for the privilege of not dying today. They bolt out of there like freed hostages, and someone watching from behind goes quiet, because this whole situation just got a lot more complicated than a resource grab. And there it is. Chi Hongda's face fills the screen with the most unhinged villain grin I've seen in this entire manhwa. He's monologuing about how Zheng Hao always wanted a good reputation for the camp, and now he's gonna make that name infamous. But here's where it gets exponentially worse, because there are two men in suits and sunglasses sitting on a rooftop with a sniper rifle, and they just confirmed this is the third wave of people they've been watching. Keep your eye on these two. The sniper drops a proverb about the mantis hunting the cicada, while the bird watches from behind, and then casually announces it's time to start. These foreigners have been sitting here watching everyone fight over scraps while they position themselves to eat the whole table. The trigger pulls, and Shi Hongda's tank top lieutenant barely registers what happened before the round has already passed through the scene and everyone around him is panicking. Their squad leader gets clipped out of the air like someone pressed the delete key on his existence, and the boys are screaming for their boss as he crumples. The news reaches the gymnasium camp instantly. Captain Crew's team got ambushed and captured by a group of foreigners with actual firearms, and the remaining guys can barely get the words out. Zheng Hao tells them to calm down and explain everything. Turns out they followed orders perfectly, searched the commercial area without provoking anyone, but someone from inside the camp sold them out to foreigners who showed up strapped with military hardware. The woman asks how the survivor escaped, and the answer makes everyone's stomach drop. The rest of the squad is dead. The foreigners let this one guy go specifically to deliver a list of demands. Would you call that mercy or psychological warfare? Because I call it both. The demands are simple. Deliver every item on this list to a designated location tonight, or they slaughter Hongda and then bring an army to level the entire camp. These foreigners are not negotiating, they're placing an order. The woman reads the list and nearly chokes because they're demanding almost half of the camp's total supply reserves. She immediately pivots to the real problem though. Foreigners with guns have entered Tianyang City, and their best move might just be running. But Zheng Hao steps up and tells the crowd to stay calm because this is a Chinese player gathering zone and foreigners wouldn't dare escalate openly. This man's confidence is either inspiring leadership or dangerously delusional, and I genuinely cannot tell which. He rationalizes that half their supplies is painful but recoverable. What really worries him is whether the foreigners will take the goods and still execute the hostages anyway. The woman beside him asks if he actually plans to comply. Zheng Hao pulls out his phone with a faint smile and says he has a plan to rescue Hongda, which means this man was already 3 steps ahead of the crisis before it even fully developed. Is this guy actually competent? Meanwhile, our boy Jiran and the squad have arrived at the bunker entrance, and it's just a massive cave mouth carved into a cliff face that screams everything inside wants to kill you. Xiaoxi walks inside and immediately wants to walk right back out because the interior is not a military bunker anymore. It's a living nest of organic tissue and pulsing growths, and somewhere in this nightmare factory there's supposed to be a mecha. She's telling Jiran through the comms to hang tight when something massive shifts in the darkness behind her, and this child screams like her soul just tried to evacuate her body. A mutant zombie the size of a refrigerator is looming directly over her with glowing green eyes and drool thick enough to qualify as a biohazard, and Xiaoxi is approximately 3 inches from being a snack. And this unhinged gremlin looks the mutant dead in its radioactive face and demands to know where the armed mecha is. She is interrogating a zombie in its own home, with zero leverage. The zombie stares back with an expression that might be hunger, confusion, or genuine consideration of the question. It shakes its head. The zombie just communicated, through body language, to a child who asked it for directions inside its own nest. This is the most civilized interaction between species in this entire manhwa. Xiaoxi realizes the creature can actually understand human speech, so she naturally responds by telling it to get lost and stop blocking her path. It obediently turns around. She has tamed a mutant zombie through pure attitude and zero respect. She's wondering if she unlocks some kind of hidden zombie whisperer talent when she grabs the mutant by the arm and starts asking it about a big iron lump. This creature that could dissolve her bones is now her personal tour guide. The zombie points downward and Xiaoxi follows its finger towards something buried in the deeper levels of the nest. But up above, Jiran is not having the same easy time, because something absolutely massive just connected with his blade and the entire cavern lit up with the collision. This idiot volunteered to be the distraction against whatever apex predator lives in here. His energy armor plus innate enlightenment gives him 35% damage reduction, and it's still not enough to block this thing's attacks. He screams at Xiaoxi through the comm asking where the mecha is because he cannot keep tanking hits from what is essentially a living siege engine. The giant roars hard enough to crack the air itself, and Jiran's sword snaps under the pressure as he burns through civet reflex trying to dodge. Xiaoxi yells back that she can't hold on much longer either, which is rich coming from the girl who's been politely chatting with zombies this whole time. Xiaoxi's feet hit the bottom level of the nest and the ground underneath her is wet with something she really hopes is water. She looks up and the scale of what she's found stops her dead in her tracks. A full military mecha wrapped in organic tendrils like a metal god entombed by the nest itself. This is what they came for, and it looks like something out of a Gundam fever dream. There's actually 4 of them down here, but Xiaoxi's excitement dies faster than it arrived because 3 of the 4 are completely dismantled. She's climbing through the wreckage muttering that these are basically spare parts at this point, which is not the jackpot report Jiran was hoping to hear. One mecha looks mostly intact but clearly broken, and Xiaoxi tells Jiran through the comm to just give up. He fires back asking why, like retreat is a word he hasn't unlocked in his vocabulary yet. She reports that everything is trashed and there are 5 giants patrolling the area, but Jiran spots something on her hologram feed and cuts her off. The one behind her looks fixable. This maniac sees opportunity where normal people see a grave. Xiaoxi asks if he's injured, and Jiran casually mentions he took 1 punch from a single giant, and it nearly ended his career. Her reaction to the news that he wants to fight all 5 at once is the most reasonable thing anyone has said in this entire series. But Jiran doesn't flinch. He tells Xiaoxi the mecha needs to be repaired on site and he's going to create a distraction by luring all 5 giants toward him at once. Fortune favors the insane, apparently because this fool is already setting up the aggro pull. Xiaoxi is losing her mind, screaming that this is too risky and demanding to be the boss next time, but she can see the giants already converging near the mecha bay and their window is shrinking by the second. Explosions start ripping through the upper tunnels as Jiran's distraction kicks off and Xiaoxi watches watches from below as fire and debris rain down from every direction around the giants. The giants take the bait and all 5 of them charge toward the source of the explosion with helmeted heads down and fists swinging like a demolition crew with a personal grudge. They crash through walls and organic tissue, swinging fire and fury at anything that moves, and the entire nest structure is shaking apart from the violence. Jiran drops in next to Xiaoxi wreathed in smoke and she asks if he caused all that carnage. He just says yeah, like he didn't just orchestrate a 5-boss aggro reset while taking damage the entire time. Xiaoxi suggests maybe they should evacuate and Jiran shuts her down immediately, telling her to deploy the corpse fog as concealment because the giants will be back soon and the repair is going to take time. He activates his steel collection and the system confirms 638 steel and 135 special steel harvested. This lunatic is repairing a mech mid-raid. The system locks onto the intact mecha and starts feeding resources into the repair. 0% complete, estimated 30 minutes, consuming 10 steel and 10 energy core crystals per cycle. 30 minutes with 5 angry giants circling the building. Xiaoxi is fighting back tears and Jiran looks at her like he's about to ask this child to do something truly unreasonable, which at this point is practically their relationship dynamic. He hands her 100 grenades he just collected from the nest wreckage and tells her when the giants come back, she needs to run out there and keep their attention. Xiaoxi starts crying that she doesn't want to die and Jiran hits her with the most unhinged pep talk in gaming history, saying this is only rank 2 difficulty and late game will be way harder. Sir, she is a child holding explosives. The giants find them again almost immediately, crashing through the fog barrier with fire still clinging to their armor, and Xiaoxi is staring up at certain death, wondering how her life ended up here. She tells Jiran to come save her after the repair is done, and this absolute fool swears on everything that they're family, and as long as he's breathing, she won't die. He's repairing a mech with one hand and making promises with the other while Xiaoxi sprints into a death zone armed with grenades and vibes. The repair hits 3%, and Jiran's already burning through steel and energy crystals at a disgusting rate, sitting at 84 steel and 57 crystals with no idea how deep this resource sink goes. This mech might eat his entire inventory before it even stands up. Xiaoxi unloads a grenade point blank into a giant's face while screaming insults at it through a wall of green corpse fog and fire. And this tiny gremlin is genuinely holding the line against 5 raid bosses with nothing but explosives and pure disrespect. Xiaoxi is screaming for the giant's attention while dodging through corpse fog like her life depends on it because it literally does. And these oversized bowling pins cannot land a single hit on her because this gremlin is too small and too fast and she knows it. She's pulling grenades out of her inventory like Halloween candy and force-feeding them to every giant in range while calling them idiots for telegraphing their attacks. The explosions are so violent they're echoing out to the surface where zombies are milling around the nest entrance like confused concertgoers wondering who's throwing the after-party. Smoke and fire are billowing out of the nest like a volcano with anger management issues and nothing outside is safe anymore. But here's the problem. Bullets gone. Rockets gone. Grenades running dry. The giants are standing in the fog rubbing their heads like they just got woken up from a nap instead of bombed. And one of them brings a foot down hard enough to crack the foundation of the nest itself. Xiaoxi's face says everything. Jiran still hasn't finished the repair and she's running out of ways to not die. She tells herself to hold on just a little longer while 2 giants loom over her like skyscrapers with murder on their minds. The giants are pushing out through the nest walls now, done playing hide and seek in the fog, ready to flatten anything breathing. Xiaoxi is gasping for air, completely spent, and she knows she can't call Jiran for help because he's elbow deep in mecha parts right now. So this absolute lunatic of a child psyches herself up by saying if she dies she'll just become a real zombie. And honestly, that's the most metal pep talk I've ever heard from someone under 5 feet tall. The giants find her. They're right on top of her, and Xiaoxi's looking up at them with the expression of someone who just realized the respawn timer might not exist in this world. But then something metallic crashes through the fog, and Xiaoxi screams boss because the mecha is online. Except she immediately notices it looks crooked, like budget Optimus Prime after a rough night. The barely functional mecha is stumbling through the green fog surrounded by giants, and I genuinely cannot tell if this is a rescue or a bigger problem. Jiran calls out for Xiaoxi while the giants are circling the mecha like predators trying to figure out if this new metal thing is food or furniture. Xiaoxi reaches the mecha and the bad news lands. The repair's still incomplete, not enough materials, this thing can barely fly, let alone fight. She just stares at it like someone handed her a car with no engine. Jiran doesn't hesitate for a single second. He tells Xiaoxi to fly the mecha home while he stays behind to keep the giants busy. This fool is volunteering to be a human punching bag. Again, a giant reaches for the mecha and Jiran screams at Xiaoxi to protect it because it's the last functioning mecha on the entire planet. Jiran plants himself between Xiaoxi and the giant, carving a line across its face with his blade and telling it to keep its eyes on him. The disrespect is immaculate. Xiaoxi climbs into the cockpit, swearing on her life she'll complete the mission and not let Jiran's sacrifice go to waste. This kid went from crying to combat pilot in about 30 seconds. The giant reacts to Jiran's attack way faster than expected, swatting at him like he's an insect that just bit too hard. Jiran fires back with a lightning charge palm strike that would delete a normal person's skeleton and screams at the giant to eat every volt of it. Xiaoxi grips the mecha controls with everything she has, telling herself she has to escape this place for Jiran no matter what it costs. Jiran unleashes a sword beam that splits the cavern ceiling wide open, and every giant in the room flinches from the sheer violence of it. He praises Xiaoxi for getting clear and immediately pivots to trash-talking the remaining giants because this man physically cannot stop being confrontational. Jiran goes full berserker mode against the entire squad of giants at once. trading blows with creatures 4 times his size like the stat difference simply doesn't apply to him. Meanwhile, across town, a completely different disaster is unfolding because there's a woman on a rooftop firing arrows and praying that the locals can handle the foreign invaders before everything falls apart. She drops down to street level and immediately regrets it because standing on the other side of a waterway is a massive white wolf that looks like it wandered out of a nightmare petting zoo. The wolf bares its fangs, and this woman's face goes from confident operative to someone who just realized she's not at the top of the food chain anymore. She bolts down a narrow corridor with the wolf in full pursuit, and she's screaming about why there's a monster in somebody's house like property management is her biggest concern right now. Erpang is closing the gap at terrifying speed, and this woman can barely process how fast a wolf the size of a truck can move through a hallway. But she's not just running in panic. She's got a plan. Lure this beast straight to Captain Zheng and let someone else deal with it because she's too smart to fight fair. She smashes through a wall of ice or glass, debris flying everywhere, doing whatever it takes to stay alive long enough for the plan to work. Now we cut to the foreigner's hideout, and the vibes in here are absolutely rotten because there's a man strung upside down like a piece of meat while 2 suited goons watch from their chairs. This whole setup would not survive a Geneva Convention audit. The blonde foreigner decides time's up. Nobody's coming to save this guy, so he tells his boys to finish the job. One of the thugs cracks the captive across the face with some kind of blunt weapon, and the sound alone makes my stomach turn. The captive hangs there with blood and filth dripping down his face, muttering that Zheng Hao abandoned him, that all the kindness was fake, just a tool to be used and thrown away. One of the suited goons flicks a lighter open with a grin that belongs on a wanted poster, telling the captive not to worry because life is like fire and he's happy to help light it. But the captive's eyes catch the flame's reflection, and he starts laughing. Not the laugh of a broken man, the laugh of someone who knows something nobody else in that room does. Because the door opens and Zheng Hao walks in like he owns the building. Every foreigner in the room freezes because this man just appeared out of nowhere, and their guards are suspiciously quiet. He steps through the threshold backlit like a movie protagonist, and the energy in the room shifts from torture chamber to someone about to get their whole operation dismantled. The foreigners start panicking immediately. Where are the guards? How did he get in? There was no noise at all, which means their entire security detail just got erased without a single scream. Zheng Hao tosses a golden storage ring through the air like he's flipping a coin to a street vendor. He tells them the ring has every resource they demanded. Now let his man go. Clean and simple. Is anyone in this room smart enough to take the deal? The blonde foreigner is not smart enough. He pulls a gun, starts screaming that Zheng Hao snuck in from the back like a coward. Every armed thug in the room points their weapon at Jin Hao's back, and he just stands there like a man who's already calculated every bullet trajectory in the room. The foreign boss cracks his sunglasses grinning like a demon and announces he's taking their resources and their lives because apparently being polite to armed men. Zheng Hao doesn't even flinch. He just notes that Westerners being honorable contract keepers turned out to be complete fiction. The foreigner fires back that they only respect people with real power, which tells you everything about how this negotiation is going. Zheng Hao stands there strapped with what looks like an entire bandolier of explosives across his chest, and the temperature in the room drops by about 30 degrees. The foreign boss immediately changes his tune, screaming to let him go, because a man covered in bombs is not someone you push into a corner unless you want to share a grave. Zheng Hao grabs his man and walks straight out the door while every foreigner in the room tries to figure out if breathing too hard will trigger an explosion. The second they're out of sight, the blonde foreigner drops the scared act and orders his men to follow and eliminate them both because of course the deal was never real. Zheng Hao is sprinting through the dark streets carrying his injured companion on his back and moving like a man who knows exactly how many seconds he has before bullets start flying. The injured man is yelling about his wounds tearing open and asking if they really need to run this fast now that they escaped, which is adorable naivety from someone who was hanging upside down 5 minutes ago. Zheng Hao drops the bombshell. Literally, the explosives strapped to his body were fake the entire time. He walked into a room full of armed men wearing party store props and bluffed his way out. The injured man loses his mind, screaming that Zheng Hao was gambling with both their lives back there, and honestly he has a point, because that entire rescue was held together by confidence and cardboard. Meanwhile, Zheng Hao's wondering why Zhen Yu hasn't lured the target to them yet. Zheng Hao mutters something about Plan B and hoping the brothers already set up an ambush, which means Plan A was the fake bomb stunt. A sniper barrel drops into frame aimed directly at their heads, and the ambush he was worried about just became their problem instead. The ground detonates around them as the foreigners open fire, and Zheng Hao barely dodges while one of the thugs casually asks why they ran so fast. These people treat murder like small talk. A massive thug with a hammer and the smedgiest grin I've seen on a foreigner announces that his boss sent him to deliver a little something, which in thug language means violence. The injured man is tearing into Zheng Hao, saying he failed again and should have brought backup from the start. Zheng Hao fires back that he couldn't risk more lives. These two are having a marital argument while being hunted. The injured man completely snaps, screaming that Zheng Hao never planned to actually save him, just wanted to play the hero. And you know what? That accusation cuts deep because there might be some truth buried in it. The hammer thug tries to negotiate like a used car salesman. Surrender the bombs, let the injured guy stay, and walk away clean. Because nothing says trustworthy like a man who just tried to shoot you in the back. But before anyone can take that garbage deal, Erpang lands in the middle of the street like a freight train made of fur and teeth, and every foreigner in the vicinity suddenly has a very different kind of problem. The hammer thug's face melts into pure terror as he stares at Erpang, wondering what species of extinction event just showed up to this street fight, and I have never been happier to see an overgrown dog in my entire life.